Not even doing the countdown. We just went live. We're live now. No fucking countdown, nothing. We're live. Fuck it.
We're live. We're on time when it's our time.
We're on time when it's my time. And my time says we're on time.
Late, Morrissey, early. Gandalf technology here.
The same quote.
Hello, everybody.
All right, let me open up my list here.
Steven, real quick. How far are you into Silent Hill 2?
I quit the other night because I couldn't read the map.
Wait, you're just done?
No, I'm going to go back to it. I just got annoyed. So I'm going to wait for you to come over to the house because I know we're going to go see Midnight Movies this weekend.
Hopefully.
Oh, no, we're going, baby. It's Paddington 2. We're fucking going.
Yeah, have you heard anything else going on this weekend?
Well, what's going on?
4 to 6 inches of snow.
I don't give a fuck.
Also, Tina's visiting the Nashville area.
Yeah, Tina's visiting.
You better have my husband's trophy, Zach.
Yeah, so you got to bring that over here.
Hope we don't get snowed.
So no snow for an excuse, Zach.
What's up, Sydney? What's up, Zach? Not you, Zach. Zach in the chat.
Damn it.
I'm looking forward to see Better Man. I'm looking forward to seeing Better Man. Also, it is amazing to me. This is pre-show talk right now, but it's amazing to me how many people don't know who Robbie Williams is. I'm like, what the fuck?
Who is Robbie Williams?
You don't remember, if nothing else, you don't remember that music video with the pop guy who, while he's singing, his body is getting like stripped of its skin and its muscles, and it like strips him down to his bones.
No.
That video was super huge. He's good.
Haven't seen it.
You are talking to a 50-year-old.
Yeah, but it was early 2000s.
Yeah, but I really.
Zach doesn't know music though.
Yes.
Steven, how did you like Amelia Perez?
Get fucked, Marcus. Marcus loves Amelia Perez. It's his favorite movie. Let's start the show and then we'll fucking talk about that. All right, I actually have a script open here so I can actually do this correctly, but I need to put the right date in because I will mess it up. I will say the wrong date. I will say the date that's on the screen. It's like December something, so let me change that because I'm stupid. January 8th. Got it.
No, it's the 9th here in London.
Yeah, but we don't live and deal in the future. So
yeah, we don't deal with those fucking heathens and their time zones.
Well, I'm over here doing Back to the Future or Back.
Exactly. And for some reason, my earbuds are pushing out of my ear today, and I don't know what that's about.
Well, have you seen your head?
I have, and that's part of the problem. I know. Not the liar. Okay, all right, let's start because this is going to be a long ass show. So let's start. You ready?
All right,
let's do it.
We're not doing any intro today because we're just doing one thing.
I was really expecting like the whole and here comes the music.
All right, here we go. It's the CultureSmash cast, the top 10 films of 2024 edition for January the 8th, 2024. I'm Stephen Lackey, editor of the CultureSmash cast. Tina?
I'm Tina Claus, contributor to CultureSmash cast.
And Nathan?
Nathan Savino, contributor to CultureSmash cast.
And Zach?
I'm Zach.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm here.
So if you didn't
get contribute to this bullshit?
Yeah, you do. You contribute to the nonsense.
Look, I get an A+ from Huck's Pop Culture Cafe.
Well,
I got an A+ already.
Well, thank God for that. God for that.
You got catching up to do now, boys.
I know, right? All right, so what we're doing today is we're going to talk about our top 10 films of 2024. And before we hear anything, and we probably won't hear anything in the stream, but I've seen it in so many other videos as of late. People are like saying, you don't know, you didn't see this, you didn't see that. This is our picks based off what we've seen. No one's seen everything except quite possibly me, because I've seen all together.
Have you seen The Brutalist?
Well, it hasn't come here yet, so that's
why we haven't seen The Brutalist, because it's literally not.
It has not been here yet. I got asked about it a bunch today. What's up, Huck's Pop Culture Cafe? If you guys don't follow Huck's Pop Culture Cafe, he does really cool physical media stuff over there.
I mean, if it was seriously up to me, I'd be like, yeah, The Brutalist has to come out, and then we could do our top 10s. But no, people
Yeah,
gotta
we can't do that.
early. So now,
And you know, this
Brutalist
just
goes in the gray zone.
what was it? There was a movie last year that that happened, and it ended up being an Oscar film.
The Zone of Interest.
Zone of Interest. We didn't get it till after January, so we weren't able to include it. So this is really based off what we've seen. Now, I've seen 150 films in the theater, and another about 40 films at home on TV. So I've seen a lot of shit.
Sydney
Let's see
asks about the substance. Yeah, we'll get into that later.
We're going to get to that. So, and then Marcus says, I hate Emilia Perez because the Netflix produced French movie where they speak Spanish and English, not French, and talk about penis and vagina. Will win instead of My Little Country's movie. Okay, so let's just get that out of the way real quick. I did watch Emilia Perez the other day after it won all those Golden Globes.
Yeah, I feel like I need to check it out now just so I can actually say I've seen it.
I watched it, and I haven't written my review as of yet, but it is a 2 out of 5. I fucking hated it. I hated it.
Wait, 2 out of 5 is a fucking 8?
Well, okay, so I hated the movie, but there are things that redeemed it enough to warrant the 2. Zoe Saldana's performance is good. And then the main actor is really good. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but it's a trans actor that played both the male and female role. And the performances of those 2 actors alone make it a 2. But I hated the music. Hated it.
I was about to say, is that the one that like everybody's upset because that one song beat out Wicked?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
There is no way for musical that beat out Wicked musicals.
Well,
Yeah.
No, and the song, because I've only heard clips of the song. The song makes me want to avoid it like the fucking plague. It is bad. Yeah. It's basically them singing an entire conversation, but it's a stilted ass conversation. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah, it's not good. But I did watch it so I could be. There's actually a song. Yeah, Marcus says penis to vagina. That's a song. That's lyrics. Penis to vagina, vagina to penis. There's a song that does that.
Yeah.
I mean, I love penis and I love vagina. So
don't cut yourself with that edge, man.
Carla Sofia Gascon. That's the name. That's my butchered pronunciation of the name. But yeah, so it's not good. It's garbage. I mean, those 2 performances and some decent cinematography give it a 2, but yeah. All right, so what we're going to do before we get into the top 10 real quick, join us every Wednesday night live on YouTube and Twitch starting at or around 6:15 CST. And follow us on your favorite platform and join the conversation because we do, as you can see, follow the comments and answer questions as we play on here on our channel. Special thanks to Skinny Mixes for supporting the Culture Smash cast. Skinny Mixes are desserts, coffee and dessert syrups. I'm really fucking this up today. Skinny Mixes are coffee, cocktail, and dessert syrups that are 0 sugar, 0 calories, and 0 to 2 carbs. Head on over to skinnymixes.com and try some of their drink and dessert syrups, such as the white chocolate, salted dark chocolate, and salted caramel. They also feature a variety of cocktail mixers with water infusions. Spice up your coffee or cocktail with less sugar, calories, and carbs. Use promo code CultureSmash for 15% discount on your order and spend $50 and get free shipping. They are clearancing some of the holiday stuff, so if you want some last-minute peppermint or something like that, pumpkin spice, it's a good time to go over and do that.
Funny story. I've actually talked to my the people who manage the WeWork office that I work at. I'm like, hey, instead of like the Tolanis or whatever syrups, can we look at getting Skinny Mixes? And they're like looking at the website. They're like, ooh, maybe.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, and for our listeners, Skinny Mixes really is like a bomb ass like syrup or like
they're fucking delicious.
They're amazing. They are so good. You can do it in hot drinks, cold drinks. You can add it to all sorts of things.
I love them. I love them.
Yeah.
We use them here all the time. So it's not even just about trying to pay for the bandwidth of this stream. We actually do use them here. So it's cool.
Great. Especially our special events. We use them all the time on our special events. So.
Oh, heck yeah. So what we're doing today is talking about our top, as I said, our top 10 films of the year. And what we always do traditionally with this is we start with our criteria, because what people, the criteria that each of us uses to pick our top 10 really has impact on sort of explaining why we picked what we picked, because we all have somewhat similar, but then some different criteria for how we choose our films, especially the order in which our films appear on our list. So let's go around and do that first. We'll each talk about our criteria, and I'm just gonna do it based off the order of the way the screens are on my screen. So we'll start with Tina.
All right. So my criteria is usually how I enjoy the film, how I feel leaving the theater. Am I going to want to watch it over and over and over again? But this year's criteria is a little bit different. The criteria for this year is I saw a fucking film. I literally saw 11 movies. 11.
Damn.
So yeah.
Oh,
All right, Zach, what's your criteria for choosing?
obviously, story, script, structure, editing, cinematography. There you go. I mean, how I feel about it, it can play into it, but it doesn't really go into yeah, I can really feel a certain way about a movie. It doesn't mean it can be positive, though.
Mm-hmm.
But really, it's story and like Tina was saying, to where it's like, am I gonna buy this? Because basically, my top 5 right now is like, yo, I need a physical copy of these.
Mm-hmm.
6 through 10 is like, yo, I highly recommend these. Maybe I'll pick them up on like a discount or eventually into my library.
Mm-hmm.
Top 5 is like, yo, where's my physicals?
Yeah. All right, Nathan.
So I'm purely, and I've done this in the past, about entertainment. So I could give a crap about editing because I don't pay attention to like technical things like that. It's all
Mm-hmm.
about if I was entertained. But in past years, I've been guilty of waiting to the end of the year and trying to rush to see movies. And I think that's flawed some of my judgment in movie picking because it's so fresh that I'm like, oh, that's higher up on my list. So
We
I
actually have a
really
name for that now. The internet has named that. It's called recency bias.
Yep.
Okay. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I've been very guilty of recency bias,
I've been
and
guilty.
Same. Me
so
too.
I really looked at the movies that I know I watched this year, and I didn't make a general effort to watch more movies. I just went back and looked at the movies that I had already watched, and so I kind of compiled my list based off that.
Okay. Okay, so for me, it's similar to Zach, but not quite the same because I have more heart than he does when it comes to storytelling, and which is really funny considering I've had this notorious reputation for hating love, but it's just not true. I hate formulaic love. I like real love.
I was not a fan of Love. I didn't think the 3D worked that really well.
That is problematic. Okay, so for me, initially, it's story and performance, and then after that, I start looking at the technical. But if the technical is not good, but the story and performance are good, I will look past that. I will look past it because you could take a really shitty made movie, but if the performances are good and the script is good, I'm down. I'm down, and I almost respect it in a way that you could rise above the shittiness of your production to come out with a really good story. And on top of that, it can be really hard to impact me on a deeper level, like an emotional level. So I've got a new slogan for my top 10. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, sure.
If it made me cry, it's in the top 5.
You actually cried more this year than I've seen you cry in previous years.
Well, you know what though? That said, I was thinking about this, and as many movies that really did hit me emotionally, not a single one has hit me as hard as Past Lives did last year.
Yeah,
I would say that right now.
Agree.
As emotional as I got with some of the movies this year that were really good, like Zach and I couldn't go. We both wussed out. We couldn't go see Past Lives in the theater when it issued for the Oscars.
Because I'm like, I don't want to cry for 15 minutes again. I just don't want
I asked him, I'm like, should we go see it since they're showing all the Oscar nominated features at the Belcourt? And he's like, yeah. And when it came down to Past Lives, we wussed out because that movie is so emotionally painful. So there is that. There's been some really great movies this year, though.
Yeah,
and
I think I teared up, as in like a single tear, like 2 or 3 times, but nothing like where I just had to like bawl for a minute.
Also, I've seen some movies you haven't seen, so there's that.
Well, can I also just say too, like the movie theater this year has been the first time since COVID that I felt like we're back into a cinematic structure and cinematic experience.
Yeah.
I feel like it's hampered though.
I do feel like I agree with kind of both of you. I feel like we've gotten more movies kind of back how we'd like them, but I also feel like some of those movies have had to fight for the success that they've gotten.
I mean, I agree with the fighting for the success, but it's been the first time for me as a moviegoer, just for entertainment value, to go and feel normal.
Yeah, and we've had $1 billion movies this year, multiple $1 billion movies this year, which is great.
I can't really say that because half of my list I had to watch at home.
Well, but you have Baby, and that changes everything.
Oh, I forgot one other of my qualifiers. I have to see it in the theater. Seeing it at home does not count.
So I had Baby, I had Moving, I had Losing a Job. We had super strict finances at the beginning of the year to where we had to cut off our AMC stub membership, and then the second half of the year I was without a job for a couple of months. So yeah, yeah,
you guys get a pass, and also for that, because that's a lot. And also that I also have that same rule, and I think Zach and I have kind of always had that rule where we only look for our top tens for things we saw in theater. It's just that.
Unless there is something so goddamn good to where you're going to break a blood oath, or level adding it, or it's COVID,
or it's a documentary and it just never had a chance to play in a theater and it's good.
Well, because half of my movies were theater, the other half I saw streaming.
Oh god!
All mine were in theater.
All of mine were in theater, also.
Which we also got to point out, your top tens. I think it's very interesting when you see it in theater versus you see it streaming, because the perception definitely changes.
Oh, exactly.
Oh,
100% agree.
There are some movies on my list I saw more than once, and it varied from audience to audience.
Yeah, same. All right, so let's start, because this is going to be long. And there is an additional rule that we always have. If you are doing your movie and you say a movie that someone else has lower in the list, that person will say, let's hold that discussion till later.
Yeah.
So we don't talk about
higher the list.
Yeah.
Higher on your list? Okay.
Yeah. So that we don't end up talking ad nauseum about the same movie more than once.
You don't want to talk about The Substance 4 times?
Yeah,
that's not even on my list.
Okay, I was going to say. All right, so let's get started. We're going to start at number 10 with Tina. Here we go.
Red One. I'm sorry. I didn't want it to be on my list.
I never saw it, but this is the Dwayne Johnson one, right?
Dwayne Johnson, Chris Evans. I didn't want it to be on my list. Like I said, I saw 11 movies, and it was between this one and Argyle.
Literally, Argyle didn't make the list, but this one did.
Well, Red One is better than Argyle, 100%.
By how much? A nose?
A full point. Like I think I gave Red One 2.5 out of 5, and I gave Argyle 1.5 out of 5. So a full point.
Just because it has America's ass in it doesn't mean
Well, that's why it's on Tina's list. But go on, Tina.
Actually, the reason it's on my list is because it was a Christmas movie that had a good, not a good, but it had the lore that I like about Christmas that doesn't get much love unless it's horror movies like Krampus, Snow Witches, Goats, the winter goats. So I like that aspect of it. It was very predictable. It was very stilted.
I'll come in and
fucking oil ice skating bullshit. Double switcheroo, triple switcheroo that Argyle had. Fuck that movie. Okay.
All right, I'll come in and support you for a minute.
A glowing recommendation from Tina.
The one thing I will say about Red One, I didn't like the movie overall, and but when they chose to use some practical effects, there were some pretty cool designs. I will say that. In the Krampus scene, there were some pretty cool practical effect designs that I did like. As an experiment, watching it though, there's a moment in the movie where The Rock and Chris Evans' characters are supposed to come together. Like they finally come together as buddies. And you could fucking tell that Chris Evans at that point did not want to be there. You could just see it in his acting. And they're supposed to be like bonding, and they're like completely separate because Chris Evans just didn't want to be there, and it's kind of a brilliant thing to watch.
Like Dwayne Johnson, or is it just he just didn't care about the film?
Well, but Dwayne Johnson was at that point coming in 8 and 10 hours late to set, and he was pissing in water bottles and giving them to his PAs and stuff. He was ruining the set, honestly, and I think that was probably what it is.
So didn't they discredit some of those rumors that were going around?
They didn't discredit them. The Rock just came out and said that they're overblown. He said it wasn't that much.
It wasn't what that was, but he did admit to like peeing in water bottles, but that was also what he does when he works out.
Yeah, but that's fucking gross.
Dude, it's
regardless of the rumors or not, if they're true or not, you can definitely tell the acting took a hit with whatever the environment on set was like.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could definitely tell when the acting kind of just switched.
Exactly.
And they were just there to get the film done. So.
All right, so moving on. Zach, you're number 10?
I just want to give a shout out real quick to my honorable mention, which is number, 11 would be on this list, which would be Challengers. Just missed my top 10. But number 10 for me, if we're going to go with recency bias, and because I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, it goes right there, would be Nosferatu.
Whoa, that's low on your list, sir.
Yeah, that's the one I'm like, I'm going to get shit for this.
Whoa. Well, you might as well just hold your conversation because we'll be talking about that fucking later.
Oh, yeah, I know we will. But that's
number 10.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's this year, let me just be real, it was a good fucking year. But there is the 10 through 6, and then there's a large gap, and then there's 5 through 1. Like 5 through 1 is in a completely different league than 6 through 10.
So I will definitely share with you guys my 11 through 20. I'll just run them down at the end, but I'm not going to do it now because it will spoil. Because like you said, there's some stuff that really broke my heart to not have in my top 10. I had to move it. So yeah. All right. So in the chat, Huck says, with Argyle, I found myself, shit, I covered it up.
Wanting to watch a movie with just the Argyle characters. It was over the top fun I wanted more of. Dua Lipa was actually quite good.
I don't know. I'm glad you had a good time with it, Huck, but I couldn't rock with that movie at all.
I really loved Argyle. It's not on my list, but I really did enjoy. It was very entertaining for me.
Oof, I hated it. But speaking of hated it, I guess we're going to Nathan's number 10.
You bitch. My number 10 is Abigail. It was the first movie I watched of the year, and it's something I've gone back and watched twice since. And I just really enjoyed the whole story, and it really hit my gay heart really well. And I love a good child actress, and she's amazing.
Not another 2.5 out of 5.
Steven, we're going to need the booze.
Abigail was really fun. It was really fun.
Okay, so here's the thing about Abigail. I know that
really fun putting it in the Walmart bargain bin.
And I feel like I'm really out on a limb because a lot of people that especially in the horror community like this movie. I couldn't get with it. I couldn't. And Dan Stevens is in the movie, and he has a lot of people like that just love him, and I get that because he's pretty great and entertaining. I don't know. I felt like there was no mystery to the movie at all because they showed you that she's a vampire and everything in the trailer. I just couldn't get with it.
But that's the thing, though. It's almost like the Megan type vibe where you already know what you're going to get. And it was just entertaining. It was more so, for me, it wasn't horror. It was kind of like watching Freaky Friday, that Freaky Friday where... Well, actually, the actress in Freaky Friday was in this. Was in this too, and she was amazing as well.
It's like, and everybody was like, "Oh, Melissa Barrera," and to me, Melissa Barrera in Abigail was like Jenna Ortega in Beetlejuice. She's fine. She was there. I don't know. I wanted to like it. I love how bloody it is. I'll give you that. Like when it gets bloody, it's bloody as hell. Like
the child star made it. The child star made the movie. Like Melissa Barrera is great. She was good in Scream. She's good in some of these like off-camp horror type things.
Yeah.
But the child actress did a wonderful job moving back and forth between the sweet innocent look to the frickin' villain of hell.
Yeah. Well, as much as Zach and I don't really care for that movie, you are with the majority because most people I know really had a good time with that movie.
I haven't seen it. I just heard it was mid as shit.
Well, I mean, for me it was too, but
highly entertaining. I watched it 3 times this year.
I still want to see it. That's my thing. I just didn't have time to see a lot of the movies I wanted to see.
Well, it's on Peacock, I think. It's either Peacock or Paramount Plus, but you should definitely check it out, Tina. I think you would enjoy it.
I have a feeling I would enjoy the fuck out of it. So
yeah.
All right, Steven.
All right, I'm just counting because I should have numbered these. Okay. I don't know if we'll be talking about this one again, and we probably won't be, but we'll see. My number 10 is Conclave.
I missed this one.
That was on Nico's top 9 because he only saw 9 movies.
Is that the only? Am I the only one who saw Conclave?
I think so, but it's on Peacock right now, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's on one of the streaming sites because I have it on my watch list.
So this movie, I was interested. But it's a movie about a conclave. You know, it's when all these priests get together to vote for a new pope when the pope has died. And we've seen this in some shitty Dan Brown stories. I mean, didn't we have that in one of the movies?
I don't know if we had it, but this is when I looked at the trailer. I'm like, this is another fucking Dan Brown. It kind of turned me off to it. Yeah.
But let me tell you something. It becomes a political thriller like you wouldn't believe. And what is really interesting to me is how the movie, we set these particular people up on like a pedestal, but at the beginning of the movie, it works really hard to normalize them, and it really sets the tone for it. But you look at the movie, and it has Ralph Fiennes in it, has John Lithgow in it, has Stanley Tucci in it. The cast is incredible. And for the filmmaking, the score is a banger. I was actually listening to the score while I work sometimes because it's so good. And the cinematography is freaking gorgeous. I loved Conclave. When I first saw it, it was higher in my list. It's just a hard year. It's really good. You guys should make some time and watch that movie. It's not what you think it is.
I remember talking to you after you saw it, and I was excited to see it. And I'm actually surprised it's on number 10. So that makes me curious for the rest of your list.
Yeah, it was a hard list. And I can't wait to tell you about some of the movies that were supposed to be on my list that are not now because it's just been such a hard year. All right.
Huck's Pop Culture Cafe says, I saw Conclave, really good. Ralph Fiennes is Oscar worthy, but it's also a one and done. I don't see myself rewatching it.
Oh, I see. I mean, I guess I kind of get that, but I definitely would rewatch this, especially with people, because there's so much conversation to be had. Especially if you're someone who's interested in having real religious conversations. Yeah, I love it. I think it's really, really good. So number 9.
I'm sorry. Again, preface this. Twisters.
Don't do it.
We're going to be talking about that later.
Okay, so we'll be talking about that one later. And spoiler alert, that one doesn't make me want to storm off. So at least there's that.
Storm.
All right. Okay, so I guess moving on, because we're going to come back to Twisters later. Zach, what is your number 9, sir?
Oh, man, we're going to talk about this one later, but Wicked.
Moving on.
We'll be talking
about that one later.
Yeah, number 9 for me is Wicked.
Yeah, we'll talk about that movie in a little bit. All right, so
Zach, also, it's your number 9 because you don't even remember Wizard of fucking Oz.
That's true.
It's not even because of that. I can only give it so full disclosure.
Yelling at me last episode because I spoiled a 19-year-old movie.
So full disclosure, my number 9 and 10 are both 4 stars. So that's like where we're starting and just going up.
Well, you're just a dumbass, so no.
Yeah.
He's a professional dumbass.
Did you not see my tag?
Yeah.
Can I say one thing about that real quick? Because someone asked me yesterday, is my list ordered by how high it rated on Letterboxd? And it isn't.
No.
I can have a 3.5 or a 4-star movie above a 5-star movie, simply for the fact, one, it either hit me emotionally, or 2, I just want to watch it all the time. Because some 5-star movies are really good. They're like a gourmet meal, but you just don't have the room to eat a gourmet meal sometimes. Sometimes you want a good snack. So yeah,
sometimes you want a cheeseburger.
Sometimes you want a cheeseburger. All right, so I guess yeah, maybe a hot dog. So we'll be talking about Zach's number 9 later. So let's hear what Nathan's number 9 is.
My number 9 is Fall Guy.
All right.
I was so highly entertained by this freaking movie. Emily Blunt was freaking phenomenal. Listen, all that stunt work, all that like action pack, and honestly, I did not know where the story was going.
So Fall Guy is interesting because on Letterboxd I gave Fall Guy a 4 out of 5, and I know the reason I fucking gave it a 4 out of 5 isn't because the movie's good. It's because I love movies about making movies, and for me, I think my favorite part of that movie is the making movies aspect of it. It's just
so the
all
whole
in
last
there.
Sequence, like trying to get that shot, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the closing credits of it is actually showing them doing the stunts that they did in the movie, and I don't know, it would never make my top 20, but I love Emily Blunt also. What else
I
did
mean,
you
I
love
love
about?
Ryan Gosling too, but I also want to separate myself from doing the top hat thing where I'm just like in love with the guy.
Oh, the
Me
black hat
too.
thing, the
Top
black hat
hat.
thing.
All right, black hat, whatever. That's how much I was so disenfranchised by hot pecs and wonderful hair and beautiful like cheekbones. So it's like, okay, I just need to separate myself from the image and look at what I really enjoy and not just the sexual aspect of it. So okay.
It fucking kills me because I'm like, he was in love with Chris Hemsworth so much he forgot the name of the movie.
Right? All he can remember is that Chris Hemsworth wore a tight T-shirt during the movie. That's all he can
His pecs
remember.
are just phenomenal. Ryan Gosling has wonderful pecs too, but I'm sitting here and my titties are poking through the shirt because I'm thinking about it.
Cut glass with them titties.
Like I'm getting hot, like I'm turning red, and that's not from the wine. That's from thinking about Ryan Gosling and Chris Hemsworth right now. Because I'm like, oh, I'm about to go vibrate.
Nathan's in a hotel in London. They have to come and pull him because his asshole's stuck to the doorknob of the bathroom because he's so.
Listen, call me Emily Blunt because I'm bluntly in love with
Blunt,
these
all
men.
right.
Holy shit.
Thank
All right,
you,
so
Hux Pop, because Fall Guy was great. It made their top 10 too.
all right. I mean, I don't hate Fall Guy. I like Fall Guy. Like I said, I'll support your choice, even though I don't think it's that good. I love
You're
it
gonna hear me
because
say this a lot. I'm sure I would have loved it if I'd seen it.
yeah, I love movies about making movies, and the making movies aspect runs throughout that movie. So it's a soft spot for me.
Tina, you're gonna have like such a great time, and I can see you making a reenactment with Evie and Shadow.
All right, so you ready to talk about a good movie? Zach's gonna be like, "What?" We'll probably not be able to talk about this right now. My number 9 on my list is Love Lies Bleeding.
That's a shame because we're gonna have to talk about that film later.
So we'll journey back to this one in a little while.
Right.
I knew we would. So number 8.
I'm sorry.
Damn
There's
it.
gonna be a theme up until 6. Beetlejuice.
That's not storm off worthy. Go on.
Man.
Go ahead.
The only reason I put it above Twisters is because my love for Michael Keaton. But otherwise, again, it's just because I saw the movie. It's very overcrowded. They could have split it up between 2 movies with the spoilers, with the dead boyfriend murder person and Beetlejuice's wife, because both of those felt very short because they didn't dedicate enough time to either of those plot lines.
There's 2 different stories there. So you mean Argyle didn't make the list, but Beetlejuice made the list with 2 different stories?
Out angry at the fucking movie.
Beetlejuice is way better than Argyle. I'm sorry.
Man, I watched Beetlejuice, and at the end, I was just like fucking pissed.
I was pissed.
At the end of Beetlejuice, I was like, well, I watched it. At the end of Argyle, I was literally like slamming my popcorn down, going, "Fuck, get the fuck."
I'd almost put Argyle on there as a dark sheep just because it got that level of emotionality out of me, other than Beetlejuice, which is going to end up in a Walmart.
Well, okay, so we know that Beetlejuice is problematic, but it's on your list, so let's talk about the things that you did like about it.
I love Michael Keaton's performance. It really felt almost like he went from filming the first Beetlejuice into filming this Beetlejuice. Like there was no disconnect for me, at least. Catherine O'Hara's bring back that mom character. In the first movie, she was kind of like a running joke character. This one, you had a little bit more emotional connection. I don't know if it's maybe because I am a mom now that I've watched that movie.
No, I agree with you on that. There's definitely, she put more into that character that we didn't get in the first film.
Catherine O'Hara actually steals that movie a lot of times. She's my favorite thing about the movie, to be honest.
Yeah. And there are some jokes that just fall flat and I don't appreciate, but there are some aspects that I really do like. I love that, and I'd love to see more of that brought in, like the claymation parts where they couldn't get the dad back in, that actor for the dad. So that
was brilliant.
So I loved that aspect. I like a little bit of what they did with Beetlejuice's backstory when he was alive. Again, I think they could have flesh that out more if the wife and his backstory were a separate movie. But yeah, and some of the practical effects, some of the sets and stuff like that, absolutely adored them having that house again. And then there were some missteps like the Maitlands, that plot hole that was grossly mishandled, predictable, but there are some shining bits on this movie.
I overall felt positive about the movie. Not enough to make my top 20, obviously, but I had a good time watching it. And I'm with you. I liked Michael Keaton's performance. I thought he was funny and fun. And I honestly didn't think he had it in him because he's just been doing serious stuff for so long, you know?
Also, R.I.P. Bob. Bob was the VIP of that movie. That was the Catherine O'Hara.
Yeah, and Catherine O'Hara is great in the movie. So, it's not storm off the set black hat worthy. So I'll support your choice there.
I mean, I'm glad I didn't pay to see it in theaters. I'll say that.
Well, I had a great time in the theater seeing that.
Yeah, we streamed it. Yeah.
And that was a really, like, I was in California. I had a great trip, and so yeah, maybe that's softening my view of the movie. But
can I say, Winona Ryder's Lydia did not hit the same at all. The same.
That was one of the missteps. It felt like that fire that we would expect from the first movie's Lydia, especially with the environment that she gets to in the end of the movie, with a very supportive, both parental figures living and parental figures in the Maitlands. You would think she would have an entirely different personality, but the second movie just kind of
it's like they washed her out so much. And it was
her character actively reverses.
Yeah. Like I said, it does have some missteps, but
it's still all right. The worst misstep in that movie, let's talk about it for a hot second, is the Soul Train joke.
It wasn't just one time. They did it like 3 fucking times.
Yeah, they did it a few
times. I could overlook it a little bit, but the fact that they did it like 2 or 3 times is like, okay.
Honestly, they could have just saved it to the end with Catherine O'Hara meeting, and that would have been fine.
Yeah,
it would have been fine. Yeah. All right, moving on.
All right, my number 8 is a little film we might be talking about later, called Maxine.
We'll be talking about that later.
All right.
Even judging the shit out of me. Even judging the absolute piss out of me.
But Steven, you have to remember, he had to ask us if the Night Stalker was a real person.
That's true. That's true. And what I love is that we saw Maxine so close to... Well, never mind. We'll get back to this later. We'll get back to this later. We're going to be talking about it again later. All right. So, moving on.
So, my number 8 was Immaculate.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
God damn, how many movies we talking about later?
The reason I went 10 through 6, because a lot of it is, we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that later.
The back end of the discussion is always the thing.
I got you, Nate. We will talk about that later. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So let's see.
Now Number 8.
My number 8 is okay. This is funny because I did my list. And my number 8 movie I didn't have on my list. But this is what happens when Steven starts working early on his top 10. I thought, let me work early on my top 10. And so I worked my list, and I realized, thank God, somebody asked me, "Oh, this movie's not on your list at all." I'm like, "Fuck! I just forgot it. I forgot to add it." So I start looking at it, thinking about it, and looking at everything else on the list. And now it's number 8, and it's Baby Girl. Am I the only one who's seen Baby Girl?
Yeah.
Yes.
What the fuck? What the fuck?
Well, it just came out within like a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
2 weeks. Recency bias showing up.
No, when you see this movie, you will see. I think it's a career, like one of Nicole Kidman's best performances ever.
Which it's kind of sad because I've been seeing her do like press tours and stuff, and she just recently lost her mom, and so that's kind of overshadowing her involvement really into promoting this movie because she's still mourning losing both of her parents within the last few years.
With that said, though, it's interesting because you start thinking about challengers, and I remember Zach and I talking about when challengers came out, but it's like, oh, it's so hot, and then we go watch it, and it's not really that hot.
It's hot because of tension, but it's not hot because of sex. If you're looking for sex in that movie, I got bad news for you.
Baby Girl's fucking hot. It's like, it's no joke. That movie's hot, but it has a lot to say on top of it. It's it's hot like Bound level hot almost, but it has a whole lot more to say than even Bound did. And I love that movie. I can't say too much about it because you guys haven't seen it, and I don't want to take anything from you except to say that it's very nicely shot. The type of story that it is, it could have easily been shot like TV, and I kind of expected it to be, but it wasn't. You
almost expect the Netflix logo to appear before this.
Yeah, you almost do. But the cinematography is really nice. I didn't realize Antonio Banderas was in the movie until I get in the theater, and he's actually in it, and is interesting because it's a very different kind of role for him. But yeah, it is a lot about. Damn it!
There it goes.
The fucking earbud comes out of the head.
Oh, his ego is pushing it out.
Yeah.
Right? Damn, it's like I'm trying to think of what I can actually say to talk about how good the movie is without spoiling it, because it's just
performances, cinematography.
Yeah, well, I said that, and Nicole Kidman's performance is amazing. Like all the performances are great. It is sort of in the erotic thriller space, but don't go in caring about that part of it. Go in caring about the social commentary that's in the movie, because, like I said, there's so many layers of commentary in it. I'm not going to say too much more. I just want you guys to actually see it and experience it. But
well, isn't it? She publicly has come out and said she wasn't expecting to find herself in a role like this, especially at her age. So she's also like, she loved the challenge of portraying a different facet that is not really talked about really.
And that whole aspect of the movie is her age is part of the story. She had to be. Yeah, it's a crucial part of the story. It's about power dynamics. Yeah. The core of the movie is about power dynamics. And it's interesting because it's how the power dynamics in the bedroom for her are reflected in the power dynamics of the world in which she lives. And it's just so thoughtful and so interesting. And it's just a movie that I keep thinking about, and I can't wait to own the movie and watch it again, because it's just it's good.
One of those actresses too that really does challenge herself, and every project she goes into, she kind of tries to alter. She's not someone that's repetitive in her acting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I guarantee you guys are all gonna fucking love this movie when you see it, because I'm not gonna say anything more. We'll just move on because you guys need to see it.
All right.
All right, number 7. This is my last apology. Dune Part 2.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that on my list of spoilers.
Spoilers. It's not on mine either.
But we'll talk about it later.
Okay. All right, Zach.
My number 7. Yeah, we're probably going to talk about this one. Is a little film from Neon called Long Legs.
We'll talk about that
number
later.
7.
Hey,
Oh,
number 7 tonight.
yeah. So I guess we're talking about long legs later.
Yep.
And then I feel like we're probably going to talk about my next one later as well because it's Nosferatu.
Anyone have it higher than 7?
No.
Nope.
Time to talk about Nosferatu.
All right. So now we get to talk about Nosferatu. So I am not an Eggers fan. Like, I love The Witch, but I did not like The Lighthouse at all. I did not like The Northman at all. So going into this movie, I was concerned but hopeful, and it paid off. It's a beautiful fucking movie. Lily Rose Depp should be nominated for an Oscar for her performance.
Dude, it's like the scariest Exorcist movie.
It's well, and that's been the
Outside of the
problem.
original Exorcist.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of been the problem, though, is I've seen so many people hating on it lately because they went in expecting something that's a more traditional horror movie, but this is more of a gothic fairy tale almost.
What do you want
And
a
it's
traditional horror film? This is as traditional as it gets. Have you seen? It's 102-year-old movie.
yeah, but by traditional I mean common. It's not full of jump
They
scares.
wanted a Blumhouse.
There are a couple of jump scares that do work in the movie, but
Boy,
they
they
really, yeah, but they work so well because it's not full of them. This movie is about atmosphere and character, and it has this sort of gross creepiness that washes over you that is so beautiful and so effective. And this is one of those, for me, this is finally the culmination of two sides of Robert Eggers that I think he couldn't get right for so long, which is his visual and artistic storytelling and his actual storytelling. Like, I felt like with the Northman and with the Lighthouse, the need to do so much artistically outweighed the quality of the script in both of those films. I know the Lighthouse has some great monologues, but
Outside of the
parts don't.
monologues, it's
Yeah. This movie, though, so there's argument to say that the original Nosferatu is a feminist film. And that argument about the first film is realized fully in this film. And the film is about, really, interestingly, it's a good double feature for Baby Girl, because this film is about shame, about a woman's shame in her sexuality in a lot of ways, because she is embarrassed to be able to talk, or doesn't feel she has the power to talk about what's going on with her in that way. And that is at the core of this movie. And it's just, once you lock into that, everything else just feeds it.
I mean, yeah, she clearly has a case of the vapors. Give her some, like, have her huff some drugs. She's clearly hysterical. That was so, like, this movie isn't funny. I think there was one moment in the whole film you kind of like had a small chuckle, but like in hindsight, watching that scene where he's like, "No, I gave her, like, what was it? Something to huff to make her pass out." And it's like,
yeah,
what the hell?
I'm hoping I can actually make time to see it while I'm up in Murfreesboro.
You need to go to the theater and see this movie because it is a visual feast, and the sound is so good.
That's what my hairstylist was saying, because she loves kind of like this gothic cinema type vibe, and she was describing it when I was getting my haircut yesterday, and she goes, she went to the theater by herself and said it was one of the better movies she saw of the year.
And I have to say, it seems like we're having a little bit of a gothic or that kind of
Renaissance,
yeah. So
and this movie kind of made me think of Nightmare Alley, in the fact that they're very different films, but the fact that they built so much.
Boy,
like there's just
that scene, like where he goes into, like, he's in like Romania or whatever, and he goes into like that pub in the town, the inn, and it's smoky and it's so dim you can just barely see people's faces through the shadows. I mean, I saw this on 35 millimeter, so maybe it was a little bit darker, but I mean, it was right on that line of like shadows and shapes of faces, and you could just smell that fucking place of smoke and shit. And
the trailer too is very enticing. I love that. It's like a common story or that we've gotten fed over and over again, but the way they delivered the trailer was so artistic as well.
It's really funny though when you look at film criticism in relation to this movie, because I don't like to try to like judge people, but when I see a critic or reviewer, and their first ding against the movie is, "Oh, this just rips off Dracula."
Let me write that whole fucking review off.
Let me just swipe on, because yes, it does rip off Dracula.
That's the point of Nosferatu.
No, it is the point of Nosferatu.
You're 102 years late to this.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yes, it does. That is the fucking history of the story, right? And I don't know if you know this, Nathan, but the original movie was made and was a ripoff, and
it was a copy. Like it was
sued out of existence. We barely even have the movie.
Yeah,
I know this.
Yeah, I thought so. But yeah, I've seen so many people say that. I'm like, ooh, I'm judging you hard now for that.
Yeah, as soon as I read that in the review, it's like I can't trust your review. You know,
because it's like reading headlines and not the story.
Yeah. But without getting too much into it, because you guys haven't seen it, but it is a beautiful blend of storytelling, acting, practical effects, and VFX when necessary. And I just think
William Dafoe was amazing too.
Willem Dafoe, like Zach said, it's not funny, and it's not really funny. But I think Willem Dafoe's character does bring a little bit of a sense of levity to it, which you need. Well, you're not ever going to be like boisterously laughing, but he will give you a lighter vibe here and there.
If you've been in like this dark, somber tone, and you have somebody that is going to be like, just a little bit elevated than dark and somber and afraid, it's like, oh, thank God, there's this in the film.
Props to him too, because he's been making a resurgence the last few, even like reprising Spider-Man and stuff like that. He's been making a resurgence, and he's just
he's busy. He's busy.
Yeah,
I mean, he was in Beetlejuice.
Yeah,
he's been killing it. Fucking do in that movie.
Yeah. The negatives, and there are some, because it's the 4.5 for me. The biggest negative is Aaron Taylor Johnson. I
didn't have a problem with him.
A lot of people are hating on him. I just think it took him about 30 or 45 minutes of the movie to find his footing. After that, I thought he was fine.
See, I didn't really had a problem with his performance.
Do you think that comes down to the direction he was given, though, while filming?
I don't know. Maybe, but it could just simply be...
If everybody else around him is acting like through the fucking roof.
I think he was outgunned, and I think maybe that's part of it, because Nicholas Hoult is fantastic. Lily Rose Depp is incredible. Oscar-worthy performance.
I've heard this too. A lot of people have been on her for being like a Nepo baby, but I was like, I feel like even if you are a child of an already established star, you have to work 10 times harder.
I don't know about that, but what I will say...
If the performance is good, then it's the performance.
Yeah.
I'm fine with Nepo baby. Have that talent to back it up.
Yeah. I actually think being the daughter of Johnny Depp is probably harmful to her a little bit right now, because I don't think he's got that much cachet anymore.
I don't agree with that. I feel like he was always, even though he went through his own shit with Amber Heard, people sided more with him than anything.
Yeah, but even now, like he was at the Cannes Film Festival, and when I saw him speak, I'm like, you still sound like you're on drugs. You still sound like you're zoned out. And maybe that's just... Yeah.
Getting back to Nosferatu, the only thing I really dinged it that just really hurt it to me, the pacing towards the end of the second act was like,
in the middle.
Come on, like
in the middle.
I even found myself a little dozy, and that comes with the dreamlike, slow atmosphere. But then the pacing starts to suffer, and I'm like, I'm suffering, and that's why I have it at 10, because. I mean, there was a moment there I'm like, movie, you need to really go now. And it does pick up from there. So when, they've announced like, oh, there's going to be an extended cut of the film on Blu-ray. I'm like,
I'm actually really glad you said that, because I've heard a lot of people talk about Aaron Taylor Johnson, which I kind of somewhat agree with, but I feel like I was the only one saying it's kind of bloated in the middle.
Yes. Yes, it is.
No, it's not to a terrible degree, but to a 4.5 out of 5 instead of a 5 out of 5 degree.
Yeah, to a 4 out of 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, we're on the same level. I'm just a little bit lower than you.
Yeah. All right, so we should probably move on to the next one.
Yeah, number six for me is Long Legs.
Does anyone else
Okay.
have this higher than 6?
No.
It's
No.
time to talk about the Long Legs.
Yeah, this is. Don't know if it's recency bias because this is the last movie that Nico and I watched. We watched it, I think Friday. But Nico and I, we were joking. We were like, it's like if Wes Anderson made a horror movie, made a thriller, which is not a bad thing. There were some aspects that spoke to me as, you know, as big as I am into like true crime, you know, the codex, the ledger, the just the serial killer aspect of it. And then on top of that, add in the occult vibes with it. Yeah, it was predictable in some aspects for sure. But I think they knew that it was supposed to be predictable, if that makes sense. Like they planned it to be predictable.
I don't think the movie was about the 3-act structure. I think the 3-act structure was simply there for the atmosphere and tension building.
Yeah, it's all about the vibes. This movie is all about the vibes.
You could almost watch this movie back to back with Skinamarink in a way because they're both vibey movies.
And the reason I put this pretty much in the middle of the pack is I think I definitely have to be in a certain mood to watch this, and I don't think I'll be in that mood too often. But the marketing for this movie was phenomenal.
Peak marketing.
We did not know fuck all about this movie, but all of us were like, we want to see it. It kept us guessing up until we were actually watching the movie.
I never saw marketing for Long Legs.
What? Really. It was everywhere.
But you got nothing.
Dude, there were phone numbers
like, if I saw Long Legs, it was like social media, but it was more so like a screen, not more a trailer or anything like that. But I really appreciate it too. It's like, it's what I kind of wish Black Phone would have been like. I mean, completely different movies, right?
Oh, you mean good?
But I just want the vibe of it too, because Nicolas Cage. Oh my God!
This movie is
fucking kills it with a creepy as shit ass performance.
I turned to Nico because we knew Nicolas Cage was going to be in this movie. We just didn't know in what aspect. But as soon as the title came up and it's like Nicolas Cage has long legs, I just turned to him. I'm like, I'm praying to God this is not a color out of space Nicolas Cage, and it was not. It was far superior.
The whole scene, the interrogation and the smashing. I literally had chills. Like I had goosebumps going up my arm.
Yeah.
The best term I heard for this is I had a friend on TikTok say that Osgood Perkins weaponized Nicolas Cage. He took the crazy that's Nicolas Cage and turned it evil. And it works. But if you can't get with crazy Nicolas Cage, you could still hate this movie because he's wild. He's unhinged.
Yeah.
If it's the character and as opposed to just Nick Cage being Nick Cage, like you said, it was weaponized. For me, this movie was just a fucking awesome ride that's beautifully, beautifully shot, paced, edited. Like, god damn. This is one of those
there are some questionable actions that the characters take. Like, I'm sorry, why the fuck are you going back to the house that you already know he can get into? Like, fuck off. Go to a hotel. But
I mean, I really loved like the ending too, to where it starts and it's just like, man, spoilers for Long Legs. The ending starts, you're just like, it's already fucking game over, man. It's over. It's like, that's just
so. It's one of those things, and the reason I compared it to Skinamarink is because there's been 2 times in the last couple of years where Zach and I came out of a movie late, both times kind of, and just felt unsettled from it. And you don't get to do that too often because I'm just so desensitized. Nothing scares me. People ask me all the time, what movie scares you? And I'm like, none. No movie really truly scares me. I can be startled with a loud sound or something, but not scared. But this movie and Skinamarink both left me unsettled after because the vibes were so effective.
And there's no come down from this movie. It's a hard stop. Like, it is like action and then boom. over.
Well,
It's like,
you said
what?
Wes Anderson, but then it goes full old school John Carpenter for the last beat. And I'm like, there you go. Let's just be as fucking dystopian as we can with how we're going to end this thing.
I mean,
I loved it. Spoiler alert, not on my list at all.
okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Earlier in the show, we talked about how, from audience to audience, it can differ based on how, it plays. This is one to where the first time we saw it, the audience was literally like pin drop silent. And then we saw it with, what's her name?
The mom.
Alicia Witt in attendance, which didn't affect this at all. But she was there giving a post-film Q&A. And the audience would laugh at a lot of it, because a lot of us had seen it before, and there were even other people who, during the Q&A, they're like, "Was this meant to be funny?"
Yeah.
So it's interesting how it can range.
And that can be a problem with uncomfortable horror, and I think that people had this a little bit with Nosferatu also.
Yes.
Is when people get uncomfortable, they laugh, and that can just really destroy the vibe.
Yeah.
If too many people are doing that all together. But the other thing that kills me is, Tina, you mentioned the sort of true crime aspect of it. I'm a little over it's like Silence of the Lambs comparison, because this is way more true crime than FBI, even though it's FBI.
Honestly, I was more getting like Zodiac vibes from it.
Yes,
yeah,
100%. It's just because we have a strong female lead, people want to say, "Ooh, a freaking Silence of the Lambs." No.
Just because the killer is in a basement, it's not Silence of the Lambs.
Ultimately, script-wise, if we're going script to script on those two movies, I still think Silence of the Lambs is a better movie.
Yes, agreed. Like, nobody's questioning that.
Yeah. There's a reason that movie won the Oscar. But yeah, good choice. Finally, good choice. All right, moving on.
It's the only one I didn't apologize for so far.
Perfect.
All right, Jackie boy.
Jackie boy.
All right, we're at number 6.
Yeah.
All right, number 6, I have Love Lies Bleeding.
Does anybody have that movie higher than number 6?
Don't even have it on the list.
All right, let's go. We can finally talk about Love Lies Bleeding.
Fuck yeah, dude.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so this is a 24 film. Here comes the vinyl. About a girl who runs a gym meeting a bodybuilder, and their kind of misadventure relationship blooming. Holy shit, this movie fucking rocks. I mean, it really is an example of Rogue Glass just coming out of fucking nowhere and just kicking ass.
So real quick, though, before we get too deep in it, I do want to mention something that was brought to my attention that does taint the movie a little bit in a way. But I have a friend who is, had a lot of experience around bodybuilders. And for her, the whole like steroids thing, the sort of thematicness of the steroids and stuff in this movie was problematic. It's like a stereotype that just really turned her off to the movie. And I understand it. I get it. I still love the movie, though. Just saying.
I was about to say, it's not just there to be there, though. It has a plot point, it has a consequence, and it has a payoff multiple times throughout the film. So to me, the stuff they're doing isn't even standard steroids. It's like something else entirely, but it gives the same kind of thing plus other things.
I know Nico enjoyed the fuck out of this movie.
Yeah, Kristen Stewart coming in just absolutely eating the screen, along with Ed Harris, Katie O'Brien,
Yeah, the cast is awesome. And, it's one of those things. I used to be a really hater on Kristen Stewart, but damn, she's so good in this movie. There's one scene, I remember one scene out when they're outside of a gas station that's like, ooh.
No, it's like, you're mad at me and I'm mad at you, but we need to make up. And it's just like, this is 2 minutes that just, it's like, it couldn't be cut, but it's like, we need to rewrite the scene.
Honestly, once she did Spencer, I was like, okay, I'm going to give her a legitimate shot every time now, because Spencer was great. I saw before people started having sex behind me. But
I fully agree with that. I love Spencer also. The one thing about this movie, and this is mild spoilers for this movie, but it's older now, is I didn't know going in that it was body horror.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
And I know that has turned other people off to the movie. Like, but there's a lot of symbolism in the movie, both literal and more nuanced. And you either vibe with it and roll with it, or you don't. And people hate the ending. I fucking love the ending. I love the ending.
Why do you hate the end? Why would people hate the ending?
Oh, so many people hate the ending, and I'm like, what's to hate? It's so good.
Hate the setup that was in the film earlier? Like, did you
exactly? This is what we call circular storytelling.
Yeah,
and I loved the ending, but these performances are great. If you like David Cronenberg, you will like this movie. If you like Saint Maud, then you should watch this movie because it's the same director, and this is a director to now watch because these two movies are so unique.
Saint Maud was great. Saint Maud was. I think that left us all speechless that one time we watched it in your theater.
It was in my top 10 that year too. And
yeah.
All you fools forgot about it and didn't have it in your list, but I did. But yeah, I'm glad that this is on both of our lists because it's just phenomenal. It's nicely shot. I wouldn't say that I remember too much of the cinematography specifically, but it is nicely shot. It's an interesting soundtrack too.
I love like one of the opening shots in the film is just this like shit-filled toilet. Kristen Stewart's like elbow deep. I showed this to my girlfriend KJ, and I popped it on one night, and she's like, "Zach, I'm not ready for this level of gross this late." Yeah, absolutely recommend Love Lies Bleeding. Like Love Lies Bleeding and Log Legs are like my mood. It depends on my mood because they're both kind of there for me.
So good. All right, Nathan?
My number 6 is Maxine.
Hey, we get to talk about Maxine now.
Does anybody have Maxine higher than number 6?
No.
All right, now we can talk about Maxine. Spoiler alert, Maxine's not on my list.
Oh, well, for being a third installment of a series, you had X, you had Pearl, and then you get Maxine. I thought it was a great timepiece or time capsule memory of like the Night Stalker, that whole era of the 80s. The whole storytelling. Mia Goth already has proven herself time and time again how incredible of an actress she can be and how versatile she can be, and her facial expressions, just the delivery of just the tone of her characterizations are just like phenomenal. And that whole sequence with the Colts daddy and all that, like I just ate every little bit up.
So was it predictable? Yes. Did I care?
No. Like as soon as Kevin Bacon says, "My employer is a powerful man," I'm like, that's the killer.
That's the killer. Yeah.
Like, and I think that was like 25 minutes in the film, and I'm like, that's the killer.
Yeah.
So, and then the third act.
Didn't care. Mm-mm. What's interesting about this movie, okay, so admittedly, the script is kind of all over the place. But what's so brilliant and beautiful about this movie is everybody had these ideas of what the movie was going to be, because the first movie was very grindhouse, TCM, that kind of thing. Still probably my favorite of the three, but it's hard to say because I really love Maxine also. And then the second one went very 1950s, almost romance and musical
50s.
With its look.
Boy, we're in
the 30s. It was like
30s, 40s,
20s.
Yeah. It's that sort of like Technicolor on a soundstage vibe, the whole thing. And then the third one, all we knew was Giallo. Giallo's Italian horror, which is my Italian thriller, really, which blended perfectly with the serial killer aspect of it. But we had so much more. If you're someone who's a student of film like me, you had Dario Argento influences of like the shots of like deep red lights and stuff for almost no reason except for the vibe, and then it would move to Alfred Hitchcock, which also means Brian De Palma, with the split screen and the whole thing. And then you had it was so fun because Zach and I got to go, and I hadn't seen this movie in years. We got to go and see Vice Squad right before, which is a really shitty kind of very nihilistic 80s crime movie, and is a huge influence on Maxine, and you can see it watching the two so close together. So we'd also seen Body Double, which is another big influence on Maxine, and it's just so cool to see all these different things come together in one movie. It's absolutely beautiful. Now, if you're not a student of film, you don't give a shit about all that, but that's okay.
You also got the evolvement of Maxine. We got a glimpse of that character in X. Not a glimpse, but you got like the foundation of her in X, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you see how that experience transformed her and where her goals are going and how she is in that present period of the 80s. And you saw growth. Like you saw the character development from
her arc was complete.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was just brilliant. Like it was really brilliant.
I heard some people online be like, well, why wasn't her character more, like she was in Pearl? And I'm like, that's not her character.
That's not her. That's fucking not her. That annoys me when I hear that.
Yeah, I'm like, did y'all watch the fucking movies? Like,
she played multiple, like you got her playing Maxine, you got her playing the old woman, you get the backstory of the old woman. So you literally through this series, you get two different characters with a full story arc.
Well, you get two arcs. You get the old woman. The old woman in X is the finality of her story, and then you get the back end of it. And then Maxine's arc is really from X to Maxine.
Yeah, which I thought it was a brilliant way, and the way they marketed it too was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I love that movie, and I really, as much as I loved all the common stuff that we're talking about, I loved how much fun Kevin Bacon was having in this movie.
Oh yeah, dude, spoilers for Maxine, but like his death scene, I really didn't think they were gonna kill him. I thought it was just, like, oh, we're gonna, play like we're gonna kill you to get information. Then they're like, nope, fuck it, and then it just fucking explodes.
No, I mean, it all was just so good. I challenge, like, what you all should do, because I did this. We started with X, then we watched Pearl, and then we watched Maxine, all in one day.
That's a fun. I would love to do that, and ultimately, that is
a fun
the
experience.
That is the proper order to watch those movies. Because people want to say that you should watch Pearl first because it's a prequel. No, Pearl is not a prequel. There are things in Pearl that are referenced that if you need to have seen X first.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. A lot of things are explained in that order. So that's the proper order to watch those movies is X, Pearl, Maxine. And I am waiting.
Having seen Pearl,
you
could have those moments like our audience had where they said a line or two that had a reference to Pearl that we didn't know was set up at the time, and you have that moment.
Oh shit, right?
And to be honest, watching X and Pearl and Maxine, it makes X and Pearl way better.
It does. I agree.
Yeah. The only thing I ding this severely for, it's not Maxine's fault per se, but like A24, where's my goddamn 4K box set?
I don't own any of these movies yet.
Maxine gets a 4K, Pearl doesn't, and X doesn't. What the fuck?
Yeah, I'm waiting.
And the 4K of Maxine looks great.
Yeah, I'm waiting till I get the trilogy in a box because that's how it's got to be.
All right, Stephen, what's your number 6?
All right, let's see. We're going to probably talk about this one later, and some people are going to be insulted that it's at this position. But my number 6 is The Substance.
Go fuck yourself. We'll talk about this later.
I knew it.
Fucking piece of shit. Fuck you. You fucking fuck.
It's where it belongs.
Fuck you.
So we have now moved into the top 5. I'm going to get crucified for this one, and I don't give a shit. My 5 is Deadpool and Wolverine.
We'll talk about this later, but yeah.
What do you mean talk about this later? There's nothing left to be talked about. We got to talk about this shit. Oh, God.
We're going to talk about this shit later. Much later.
Oh, fuck.
Right.
Why?
We're done with this. We're in the
top
5.
We shouldn't be allowed to have 3 out of 5 movies, like 3 out of 5 rated movies.
3 out of 5? Man, you're generous with that rating.
No, I gave it a 3 out of 5 because I had fun with it. All right. So moving on. Because we're apparently coming back to it.
So my number 5 is a very independent little film called Sometimes I Think About Dying.
Spoiler alert. It got bumped from my list, and I'm really hurt. I'm really sad about it.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm really sad because I
we both fucking love this movie. So
love this movie. It is Daisy Ridley's best performance.
Daisy Ridley is in this film, and it's about this lady who it's kind of a slice of life, week in her life sort of affair, where she works in an office and how she almost has this fantasizing idea of dying while trying to fit in with her world. Clearly, there's something mentally wrong with her.
Well,
maybe.
no, it's not even something. This is a beautiful telling of functional shit. Like I lost the word now. Depression, functional depression.
Oh,
she is fully diagnosed depression. It's not like I'm depressed. She literally is just functioning, and that's what she's doing. And one of her things is, like he said, she just fantasizes about it. And what's beautiful is when I say functioning, she's still contemplating a relationship with somebody. And it's so interesting to watch her try and figure that out with this person. And she almost ruins it. She makes it hard for him, and he's a good guy. He's nice to her. But because of her depression, she nearly just ruins it. And this is so simple. And so it's an indie film. It doesn't need $200 million. This is a $10 million movie, and it looks beautiful.
Is it $10 million? It feels like a $3 million. I mean,
it might be a $3 million
movie. Or 4 locations. Okay, this didn't affect my score at all because I've watched the film twice now, and goddamn, it's so good. Streaming on Mubi if you don't have Mubi. But there's a scene where we had the director in audience with a post-film Q&A, and she explained that there's this whole large scene where they're in a houseboat at night. Then we had 2 nights to film that whole fucking scene.
I love that story.
This is like a $2 million movie because they don't have time. They have 2 nights to film this entire 15-minute scene. But no, this is like, again, I guess my theme throughout this year I'm looking at it is kind of just vibes. With Nosferatu, with Maxine, Longlegs, Love Lies Bleeding, and now Sometimes I Think About Dying. All these films, and a few more coming up, but like just vibe to where you can put them on and just go with the flow of the film. It doesn't hold movie throughout my list, but the
thing about this movie is it does such a really beautiful job of kind of making you feel her depression, like you feel her existence. There's a lot of breathing moments of not talking, and other things too, like the inner office relationships that are going on. People start talking or talking about parties or whatever, and you see her slowly sort of back herself away from it. And she doesn't do anything except she's stepping away because that's her character. And
there's a great scene where everybody's going over their favorite foods. And it's like, oh, I love pizza. Oh, I love Chinese food. Oh man, I love a steak. And it's like, Fran, what's your favorite food? Cottage cheese.
Yeah.
And everyone's like,
yeah.
Oh,
okay.
I mean, that's kind of her character.
God, it's such a wonderful movie. This is one of 2 movies that I got so sad bumping it from my list. It's just so fucking good.
There's no fucking way. I mean, like I said before, there is a substantial jump in quality between my number 6 and number 5. Like, so we're only going up from here. And damn, this is one that it's like, where is my Blu-ray of this movie? Is it out? Where's my 4K? Like, I'd love to own this movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even that I would watch it all the time. I just love it so much. I want to support it. I want it on my shelf. And then sometimes, if I'm feeling depressed, I would put this movie in because I'll be like, yeah, you get it. Oh, because it's just there.
The Blu-ray actually comes out in a week. But
perfect.
I don't know if I'm paying full price $40 for that.
That's a lot. That's the pre-sale price. We'll see what it is when it actually comes out.
Yeah, but
yeah, so good, so fucking good.
Please check this one out. It's really fucking good.
It really is. Love that one made it to your list. It's just because I have a few movies in my list that you haven't seen. That's why.
Yeah,
we'll get to it. All right, moving on.
My number 5 is Dune Part 2.
Is it higher for anybody else? Tina?
No, mine was number 7.
Oh, okay. So I guess we're there then because not on my list, not on Zach's list. So you guys go for it.
So the first one was a good establishment type film. This actually felt like I got more of the character development, more of the story, more of the action. Visually, it was just gorgeous. Zendaya honestly stole it over Timothy Chalamet for me. The music, actually, the score for this film really carried the emotion and the tone of the film, and it was just amazing for me. What do you got, Tina?
For me, the reason why I put this at number 7, because this beat out Red One, Twisters, and Beetlejuice, was entirely because of.
Excuse me, the bar is fucking low. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's entirely because of the scene when they're at the black and white planet and just how dark it is and how beautifully shot that is. Like the chromatic, they could have made it look so bad, but it looks so good.
It looked so good, but did it also give you like the original Gladiator vibe, where you just felt immersed? Yeah.
But it was one of those things where it's like that scene alone saved the movie, because otherwise I was just like bored out of my skull half the time. The memes that came out of it were hilarious. I will say that. But yeah, it was. I'm gonna lose a lot of geek cred. I've never been a big fan of Dune, so it was really hard for me to jump on board with this iteration of it. It's done great. It really is. But it's just something I've never really been a fan of.
Well, I'm right with you, because I've never been part of that franchise at all with anything. Like, I watched the first movie because everyone was talking about it. And then I was like, okay, I got to continue the second movie. And the second movie, to me, felt way more constructed in the characters than the actual, like, Dune Part 1, I was, like, I did not like. I remember it being on everyone's list that year, and I was like, this is stupid.
Yeah, the two things that saved this movie for me, like I said, the black and white planet, where you get Austin Butler's character introduction, and Florence Pugh. Those are the two things that saved this movie. Zendaya, she did really great, but she also did really good in the first movie. So it was kind of like a standard for me. But we get more of Florence Pugh, which I really loved her character.
Austin Butler, man.
See, I'm like, I go back and forth on if I like Austin Butler or not. I have to see him in more things that have more range for him, because it's either Elvis Presley almost to an insulting level, or it's a very stoic, don't really have much emotion kind of character, which is what that character was designed to be. So it's not like, oh, he just didn't pull it off. No, that's how the character is built.
I was just glad not to see Elvis, because his Elvis I hated.
Yeah, like I said, it's almost an insulting level, but I gotta see more stuff that he's in that has more of his range for me to get if I like him or not.
So it does pain me to not have a Denis Villeneuve film in my top 10. But
can I?
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, real quick. Is my biggest problem is I don't mind. In fact, I like trilogies and that kind of thing, but I need for each movie to have an arc and have a 3-act structure. And that was it was the biggest problem with the first movie, is it seemed like it spent the entire movie getting started and then it just stopped.
Yeah.
And now the second movie, and I'm like, okay, well, now we're going to get something. And this movie basically does the same fucking thing. It spends the entire movie starting everything else and fleshing out a little bit from the first movie, and then it stops. We don't get a complete film, that we just, like, I couldn't put, if I owned the movies, would I put Dune 2 in and just watch it? No. But you know what I would do? I would put The Two Towers in and just watch it, because you know why? It's still a movie. It's still a 3-act movie that you can watch, if you're in the mood. More so than this.
I feel very on the edge of, like, everyone fucking loves Dune Part 2, and I just don't see it. I think the main character, spoilers for fucking Dune Part 2, because here we go. As soon as he drinks the juice, he is to a level of perfection. I'm like, nothing can fucking, like, he's invincible at this point. even though he gets injured, it has no consequence
It's like
whatsoever.
game
He's
over.
a perfect
He's
mastermind.
the
Yeah, I
mind.
might as well just put the fucking credits on and say
I
they win.
disagree with that because I think physically maybe he's not, but emotionally and where he's at,
Strategically, he makes zero mistakes.
Yeah,
From
he
that
does. He
point
makes
on.
no mistakes from that point. He's doing
But
everything right.
no, because he does make several mistakes, especially at the end with his choices. I mean, I understand why he's making certain choices, but to me, you're looking at it and I'm like, no, you're fucking up, dude. You're not following what you want. You're doing what's expected.
Yes, to
It's a
win
flaw.
the battle in the war and not have his head on a
it's a,
spike.
it's a but even then it's a character flaw. It's a relatable flaw where you're choosing duty over self.
I don't know.
I will side with Zach on this point because once he drinks that juice, it's like, to me personally, it felt like all the stakes for him were just gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No,
I
because
felt
once
no
he drank the
tension
juice,
after
I
that
feel
point.
like his relationship with his mother was basically tanked. Zendaya,
His mother had
relationship was
gone through the
basically
same
tanked.
treatment earlier in the film.
Yeah, but you also see the emotional disconnect too. You're losing the foundational parts of you that made you who you were.
I hate to say this, but he really didn't get a character that felt like a foundation had formed until the end of the first film. And frankly, this film is 2 hours and 45 minutes or something like that. And we have his entire training of how to be a desert person go over a montage in 3 minutes.
Yeah, like he became superhero in
like
in
he
became
how to do the desert like that.
Yeah, he went from building trust and cementing his place within this group of people that he wanted to be friends with and part of their community to basically being their god in like 2 sips of a Kool-Aid.
And I get it, he's been Al Gaid, but like
he got Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
he got Doctor Strange.
I completely disagree with all of that.
I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because like I also think my expectation from Dune Part 1 to Dune Part 2, because you're talking about you're not getting a complete story. Well, Dune Part 1 was shit to me. Then Dune Part 2 really had
I was going to say that helped.
High expectation going into it, which honestly I would have preferred to have Dune Part 1 and Part 2 combined together. That would have been a fuller story. It would have been long as hell, but it would have been a fuller story. But I walked in to Dune Part 2 just seeing Dune Part 1 again. So like it really helped me in Dune Part 2 really connect. And then to watch the progression of the characters, especially seeing the facial expressions that Zendaya delivered, especially at the end, when he had to make the choice of like basically,
and he couldn't just take her to the side and go, "Hey, I gotta do this, otherwise we're gonna die."
Exactly. I was like, "What the fuck? What the fuck?"
It's like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Because in real life, you have those moments where you fear even bringing shit up like that.
Okay,
like,
hi, I'm a god and I can see the future. We have to do this or we're gonna all fucking die right here.
Exactly.
No.
Well, that's the character at that point. He knows all the right moves to make, and I'm just like, Zendaya, what the fuck are you mad about? He knows all the right moves to make. Maybe stay calm, lady. Have a moment with him and go, "Why'd you do that? Thank you." Instead of just walking out of the room, I was like,
"But you know what though? You know what though?
That's a realistic character development right there. That's emotional. That's an emotional beat.
But you know what though, Zach? The flip side of that is I also did not like his character, Timothée Chalamet's. I didn't like his character, but I also like I started to feel like I wanted to, I hated Javier Bardem's character also.
Yes,
like I kind of liked him at the beginning, but then he just got stupid. So when Zendaya does have that moment where she stands up and basically says, "All of you guys are a bunch of fucking assholes," and storms out, I'm like, "Thank you. You became my favorite character just now." Even though you're correct, she should wait a minute. She should do what you said. She should take a minute and understand.
The character has been rational about that, and then she has like the script says, "No, you're dumb now."
But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, fuck all of you, because I hate all of these characters. I hate everybody by the end of the movie.
No, but it was very realistic to things. Like even you look at Javier Bardem's character, right? And how he portrayed himself. And then all of a sudden he's this religious zealot, whatever. It is so realistic to what we are experiencing in today's time in politics. And we saw this shift of people who literally just jump And you fuck, we even saw it at the fucking end of Titanic where you're in a life and death situation and all of a sudden you're holding on to a rafter praying to a fucking god that doesn't fucking exist. Like, save me, blah, blah, blah.
Well, I'm
People
so
are
glad that
fucking...
25,000 years in the future we're still dealing with this.
But that is humanity. That is parts of humanity. You see it today in drastic
Are actors
situations
human?
and election situations where people are fucking posting drastic ass shit. People you're friends with, Zach, still, that do all drastic shit.
Okay. My point
My
was on the
favorite thing
film.
about this whole stream just became the word electional.
Full disclosure, this came out in March. So before that, you're now taking events after the film was released outside of the film and recontextualizing it.
But
And
even
for full
in March,
disclosure, excuse me, for full disclosure,
4 years ago,
I like
4 years ago, we had a
part
fucking,
1 way more than part 2
4 years
because
ago,
of its
we had
vibes
4
and
years
learning
ago,
nature,
we had a fucking president
which you do
that
not
was elected
get in
and
part
people
2
did the same
because there's no
fucking
time for
electoral
it.
shit.
Instead, we have to have all these fucking sequences go on about characters we frankly don't have enough information about, only to get us to the end of the film.
We have got to move on from this. Ultimately, I just want to say,
to electoral
one
your
last
ass.
thing. One last thing that we can all agree on. We're doing part 2. Is the wonderfully horrible design of the popcorn bucket.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
Okay.
The sandworm.
I mean, fuck, I
Yeah.
saw it on 70 millimeter, and I'm like, it wasn't even, they didn't even use the IMAX scenes correctly. Fuck's sake.
I like both movies generally, but they're both 3.5 out of 5 for me, and they're both not. I mean, Dune 2 is not on my list because of that. But I respect that it's there for you. I'm glad you loved it.
I'm happy
But
for
damn.
everybody that loves this movie, but man, I am just not in that boat.
Yeah, same.
It's
It's problematic. I do
wish
too.
it was.
All right, so this will be fucking quick because my next one is Wicked, and I know we're going to talk about that later.
We're
So
gonna talk
moving
about
on.
that later. Yep.
Moving on.
All right.
My number 4 is Immaculate.
Wait, is that where we're at, number 4?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was my number 8, and I'm excited to talk about this.
Yeah.
Wait. So
Yeah,
so my number 5 was Wicked. Okay, so now we're starting 4. I got you. All right.
Okay.
Immaculate.
Immaculate. Yeah. I saw this movie roughly right after we moved down here, so May-ish, and I'm still thinking about it. Like, I'll still catch myself thinking about certain scenes. I'm not the biggest fan of Sydney Sweeney. I don't know, something about her face just doesn't mesh with me. I know she has really good talent. I will admit that. She has wonderful talent. Just something about her face just uncanny valleys me. But she does phenomenal in this.
I think there was a huge. This is one of her most emotional beats.
Yes.
Yes, because she really does take pause.
Yeah, you really you're feeling what she's feeling in these scenes, and especially as somebody who's gone through a pregnancy, some of them hit real hard. Mm-hmm. And then you have that conversation of pregnancy with religion, science versus religion in the aspect of pregnancy and giving birth and all that stuff.
Her trying to escape, her whole sequence of trying to escape, honestly gave me the desperation that Mia Goth kind of displays when she acts. And that you don't get that in previous projects Sydney Sweeney has done.
Yeah. And there are times when Nico was kind of watching the movie, but at the beginning, but kind of not. He was kind of just helping to unpack and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But halfway through the movie, I look over, he's sitting on the couch with me, just engrossed in it. And if a movie can make Nico say, "What the fuck?" at least 3 times, I know it's going to be on my top 10.
So I like religious horror, so automatically this hits a soft spot for me. It's funny, though. I wish she was actually in the chat right now, but Crystal, who's in the chat sometimes during these streams, she was really bothered by one thing, and now I can't not think about it, and it's that this character did all this work to go to this place and never bothered to learn the language. And it's pretty funny when you think about it, because she's going to live here the rest of her life with people that speak this language, and she never bothered to learn the language.
It's not out of the languages, especially in Europe, out of the languages that are in the world, but especially in Europe, Italian's not as difficult as, say, German to learn. It's actually, linguistically speaking, one of the easier languages for Americans, for English speakers to learn.
Well, and I'll tell you this, like from experience, like Corinne went over to Italy not speaking Italian at all and was there for 2 years and then came back being able to speak it. So it's not like that didn't step out for me, like not taking the effort to learn, because I feel like over time she would just adapt to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the movie. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's not top 10 quality for me. I know why it's in your list, but I did do a video the other day on TikTok about my favorite endings, my favorite final scenes of the year, and it made that list.
Yes.
Because the last scene of this movie is ballsy as fuck for a studio movie.
Nico really thought that they were going to go one direction, and I was like, no, I can tell you straight right now, it's not going to end how you think it is. And sure enough, the ending just kind of like, he was like, okay.
That movie gets mad respect for me for that ending.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I will watch this over Longlegs for sure, just because it's a more simplistic storyline compared to Longlegs.
Yeah, this is some basic religious horror, which is fun. I think it's very fun. Yeah,
but it is intellectually on a higher level, a higher conversational starter. This is something that people can talk hours and hours and hours on. It will definitely spark heated debates and discussion.
Didn't you find the pacing to be pretty decent too? Because I usually when you watch movies like this, you're like, okay, there's
definitely going to be some slow parts and whatnot, and you expect that. But this movie, I was like, that was quick. I didn't realize how fast it was going or how steady the pace was. But yeah, like I'm gonna watch this at least once or twice a year, maybe. But
the funny thing is I actually feel like there were two religious movies that came out at the same time. I probably feel like The First Omen is better than this one, though, for me.
I didn't see The First Omen, but
but I love religious horror, so I'll put them both on my shelf if I find them under $10.
But yeah, the fact that I'm still thinking about it half a year later, like still thinking of certain scenes, yeah, it's going to be on my top 10. It's going to be high on my top 10. So,
Zachy boy.
All right, so my number 4 is a little documentary called Casa Bonita, Mi Amor.
Holy fuck. That's really high on your list, sir.
Yeah, I've seen this movie 3 times now.
You South Park fanboy.
It's not even that I'm a South Park fan. This is like one of those documentaries about, renovating a restaurant that is so expertly paced.
Okay,
so beautifully
let's be fucking real. Let's be real right now.
Yeah.
Part of the reason that this is on Zach's list.
No, it's not.
Yes,
it was
it is.
on this before.
Stop. No, part of the reason. No, you're not. You don't know what I'm going to say then. Part of the reason that this is on Zach's list, because it almost made my list for the same reason, is there's very seldom a time that we will sit down to watch a documentary and we watch it, and virtually every decision made in that documentary is what we would have done.
Yep.
And that's what happened in this movie. When you watch this movie, if I told you we made it, you'd be like, oh, okay. Yeah. You would get it because it looks like shit we do. It looks like us. From the way it's shot to the editing decisions that are made, it's like, damn, these people are in our brain except they had money.
I mean, yeah, because it makes me mad because it's one of those docs is like, God damn it, why didn't we do that? That's a great compliment, but it's one of those moments I go, damn it, because it's so like it's up our alley.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I really thought the pacing of them, every decision that goes into making this restaurant into what it is and how it pays off at the end, like how there's so much setup, what it means, what it is, and then paying it off all at the end was just like a beautiful little masterstroke. Does it help that I've been to the place? Sure. I mean, this was on my list at that place before I had actually seen it. Like I had seen this 3 times before going to Casa Bonita. And aside, the real Casa Bonita is so fucking awesome, you guys. It's so really cool. But no, this is a documentary that is like, it's in my DNA, and it's really, really good on Paramount Plus. So please view.
Go watch it. I love, love, love this documentary. It just doesn't carry enough weight to make my top 10, but I love it. I think it's so good.
I just like if this is a feel good doc, it's like, it is gonna make you feel good.
It is gonna make you feel good. All right, Nathan.
All right, my number 4 is definitely a passion one. It is Twisters.
If you feel it, chase it.
It was so much fun.
This is another Nathan Tina one.
So like my top 2 my top 2 movies ever are Twister and Jurassic Park. And like the Jurassic Park series, except for that final dinosaur movie, is like top tier, but Twister was like my favorite film as a kid all time. So Twisters, I walked into it and I was like, okay, are we gonna get any Helen Hunt? Are we gonna get like surprise kid? No, it's its own movie. And it did a really good job with playing off different characters, different kind of story arc, and then honestly, the Twister sequences were great too. I was not expecting an opening that strong to begin with. So yeah, Tina,
spoilers for pretty much all the movies we talk about, but I will say we had a rule in my house growing up. If Twisters is on, you sit down and you watch it. Because it was one of the movies my mom and I could watch back to back to back to back. Mm-hmm. So 100% agree with you right there, Nate. It's just part of me as a person now. I felt the reason Twisters was so far down on my list is I felt it rehashed some of the plot devices that I felt like we had finalized in the first movie that were wrapped up.
Talking about like Dorothy and all that.
Dorothy and they keep saying, "Oh, we don't know much about tornadoes." Like, well, wasn't that what the first movie was supposed to help with? Is learning more? You telling me the 20 some odd years between movie 1 and movie 2, we didn't have the innovation that apparently only these 2 people have? So that kind of bothered me, the lack of scientific growth from the first movie to the second movie. I felt like some of the secondary characters, some of the actors they were having fun, but I felt like they weren't really putting their all into their roles. Some of them felt a bit to the wayside. The villains are just so blasé. Like the villain, like we're going to buy these people's houses so that we can get more land. What the fuck?
So
what the fuck?
I saw this one and I didn't hate it. It was a 3 out of 5 for me. For me, it was a one-time, one and done kind of thing. I mean, it was okay. The problem I had with it is
I loved. I will say that the main 2 characters, fucking loved them.
Well, okay. So here's the thing, and I just want to do a quick comparison because the thing about Twister, the first one, that elevated that movie is the people in the background. You had people like Philip Seymour Hoffman and Carrie Ellis and Jamie Gertz, and they were all like really extra. Like they were just so extra and good, Sean Whalen's in that movie. But the secondary characters in Twisters, like I couldn't name a single one. I couldn't. I don't know. Like none of them had any impact. And I don't know if it's that they weren't good or the script didn't give them an opportunity to be good. I don't know which one it is, but it's like, whatever. I just feel like the performances were okay. I think the action scenes were fun. Obviously, the 2 leads were fun. I had a really weird experience watching that movie, though, if you remember. I saw it in 4DX. Mm-hmm. And
that's on you. That is on you. That is a choice you made.
Well, I only did it because it was the only screen time I could get and still be able to see the other movies I was seeing that day. So we're in there, and I'll just reiterate really quickly. When you're in 4DX, it's like riding a roller coaster. So while this tornado is literally killing people and destroying their livelihoods and their lives people are laughing and screaming because we're getting slung around in these chairs like a roller coaster. And I'm like, this is such a weird emotional experience right now because I'm watching people die and everybody around me is laughing their asses off and hooping and hollering, having a great time. It was not the way to experience that movie.
I will say, I would have loved to see 4DX Twisters after I had seen it in a regular theater setting the first time.
That was my review.
That was my review. Yeah.
Yeah. So, don't do it.
I will say I saw it in theaters and then I bought it because I own the original Twister, and then I bought this one.
I'm holding out for in case they do like a collection, like a 2-pack.
Like a partner. Special. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I am so glad they did not choose to have like a Helen Hunt cameo or stuff because I like that it's its own thing.
I'm glad that they didn't have her related. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. 100%.
And I'm really glad that it kind of shifted to, like you're saying, the secondary characters weren't very memorable. They might not have been memorable, but it really wasn't about the team. It was about the two focal characters. And then you're looking at the commentary of how corporation really is taking over and capitalizing on tragedy. And that was like its own commentary. But I love that we knew from the first Twister, Helen Hunt's character was really driven based off the experience she had as a child. This new girl, and I can't even, it's not even that I don't know the actress well enough because she was in the Crawdads movie.
Yeah, that terrible ass fucking movie. Yeah, I hated that movie.
I love that her drive and where she is passionate about weather. She is passionate about the science and deforming tornadoes, not really
predicting.
The structure of tornadoes. She wants to just like cut off, but she has that drive of guilt from losing her friends, losing these people that helped her create this stuff, and she's her own standalone. And then you have Glenn Powell is his own standalone storm chaser. And yes, you have like a romance there, but they're their own individuals projecting forward, where I feel like with the first Twister, yeah, you had Bill Paxton, you had Helen Hunt, they had a previous like relationship. So you're dealing with like their relationship, but you're also dealing with the psychological trauma from Helen Hunt's childhood.
Yeah.
Whereas this is a completely different take on drives of being in this storm chasing lifestyle or meteorology field. So.
Okay.
All right.
3 out of 5.
All right, Steven, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is, again, another movie that all you fuckers haven't seen, but it's not necessarily your fault this time because it was really hard to see. You had to move fast to see it, and it is Sing Sing.
Damn, I need to see this.
This movie, we'll talk about a movie that pulled me to tears. This movie did it. This is a movie that tells a story of a rehabilitation program in a prison where the inmates learn to act stage plays, like they do stage plays. Coleman Domingo is the lead in it, and he's probably going to get an Oscar nomination, and he fucking deserves it. But his right there with him is Clarence Macklin, who is not an actor in that sense. He was an inmate, and he went through the program and learned to act that way. And the fact that he can go toe-to-toe with Coleman Domingo in this movie is mind-blowing. And a big majority of the people in the movie are actors from that program in the prison. And it literally just sort of tells their stories. But what it brilliantly does, instead of just being a character movie, which it could have been, just sort of telling their stories, we're seeing them learn and put together a play. So we have this narrative flow that we're following through to the end. Very familiar to the documentary style that I really like. The acting in this movie is so palpable. It's so moving. Like you get sucked into their stories, and it hurts your heart to watch it. And it's a beautiful thing when they do it. At the end, the closing credits, no spoiler really here, except that you get to see some of the real plays. And it's like, that made me cry. It was just so good. It's such a good movie. I couldn't be more happy that it's coming back out next month. It'll be back in theaters on a wide release in February. You guys should see it because it's fucking beautiful. There's not much else to say about it. The cinematography and all that stuff is pretty basic. It's pretty bare bones. They're shooting in a prison. It's all literally sitting on the shoulders of the actors, and it's stunning. It's so good. It was higher on my list for a long time because it just moved me so much. Yeah, just go see it. Not anything else to say about it at this point without getting too spoilery. Fantastic movie.
All right.
Yep.
All right, so we're at our top 3 now. My number 3 is Inside Out 2.
That's my number 3.
Oh, no. You two are on a simpatico situation, and Zach and I usually are, but he's fucked up.
Well, then I'll wait to talk about it for Nate's turn.
Well, you can both talk about it now.
Okay. And we'll just For me, the thing that solidified this movie as going into high on my list is the anxiety attack scene. As somebody who suffers from anxiety attacks, especially when I was younger, spot on. Like, it felt like I was about to have one just because of how it had me flash back to when I was Riley's age, how I would have those anxiety attacks. And very, very honest on how relatable that scene is, because that's exactly how you're feeling. You can't catch your breath. You can't breathe. I'm tearing up now just thinking about it.
Oh,
but
damn.
It's one of those movies that I didn't expect it to go that hard, which I should have learned from Inside Out 1 that it's going to go that hard.
But the challenging part of it, though, was I walked into it like, oh, this is going to be cute. It's not going to be nearly as good as the first one. And you walk in and you're introduced to these new characters, and anxiety, it's just like how you were saying, it threw me back to my very first anxiety attack.
Yeah.
Like, I clearly remember where I was, how I felt. I don't remember how I was reacting, but I identified so well to that anxiety and the pressure you put on yourself and the thought process. They captured Riley's thoughts and feelings so accurate to being an awkward teenager.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely Inside Out and Inside Out 2 are going to be movies that I introduce to Evie when she starts developing those emotions. It's like, this is how it's going to be. These are things that unfortunately a lot of people deal with and they don't know how.
Well, and watching the emotions meld together too, because you can't have happiness without anxiety or sadness or anger. It's all interwoven, and the way they portray it is so beautifully done. Like, I cried so hard at this movie, and we saw in the box, like, people related so well to this movie.
Oh yeah. Like the box office performance really spoke to how many people could relate to this movie.
So I have said, and I've caught grief about this, I've said that I think Inside Out 2 is as good as Inside Out 1. But I say that because I think Inside Out 1 is a better story. It's a better written story. The script is better. But I think it almost, Inside Out 2 balances by being a better filmic movie. Like, cinematically, Inside Out 2 just looks like a movie. It's beautiful. It's way prettier than the first film. And I prefer to look at the first one and look at the second one and watch the first one. So I think it's a great movie. I really liked it.
Yeah.
I wish I did.
Zach has no emotion, so he can't relate.
That's true.
He's just piloted by all the rage. All of his rages.
Listen, I can't trust anything Zach says after the Wizard of Oz moment. I was like, I can't.
Reasonable.
Reasonable. Just there's so much in that movie. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Sure.
Yeah.
Like, if you take the inside scenes out and just played the live action scenes, it doesn't work. Riley literally goes from like, oh, it's like, you're a fucking psychopath.
No, but have you not had? I think that's also a disconnect. I think having a sister and watching the hormonal changes too.
I was about to say, I've
Hi, I have a sister. Hi. No.
Then you should relate to it because you should be able to observe.
Yeah,
Like,
but
even,
Zach, remember though, Zach is a blockhead. He doesn't notice things around him.
well, like there is so much more that goes on, especially for females. And there's things like, yeah, I'm a gay man, and I say boy parts,
Oh,
lady
are
heart.
you? I didn't know. Holy shit!
Wait, what?
Listen,
Really?
shove a penis in my mouth and I'll suck it.
there's so much.
Oh, damn!
There's
I didn't
so
know.
Hack with Riley as a character that we get in this film.
Yeah.
Of Riley is not going to be a straight child, 100%. That's end of case. So I have a feeling, and this is definitely for the neurodivergent people out there.
Mm-hmm.
If you're neuronormal or what's the fucking term? If you don't have the wiki wackies like I do, it's gonna be harder to relate to this because if you've never had anxiety or if you've never had severe depression, like you were talking about with sometimes I think of dying.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be harder to relate to those.
Well, and also I think also Riley's story, she's an athlete. So if you're not into the athletic sports mindset of it too, you're not going to connect with that storyline in the same way. Because I remember playing basketball as a kid. I remember swimming. I remember even just being a mascot and being immersed in athletics. There is such a psychological thing with that too.
Yeah.
So unless you have been a part of that world and are really involved, I don't think it's going to connect the way that it does.
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys are saying all this. I connected with the movie. I don't have necessarily any of that. The whole depression thing, I'm understanding it more and more as of late. But I feel like it's laid out in a way. I do agree the script is messier than the first script because it's trying to do so many other things.
Yeah.
Well, no, it shouldn't be. You can clean it. You can clean up the story and still do the things that they want to do. But overall, I still really like the movie. I still gave it a 4 out of 5.
I don't agree with that at all because I think it captured teenage athlete, especially this generation of teenagers.
Yeah,
I will somewhat disagree with Nathan's point there of messy equals capturing it perfectly because I can think
but that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying it captured it perfectly.
Not perfectly, but because I can think of another movie that captured that awful awkwardness of growing up of that preteen years with fantastic writing. 8th grade. 8th grade, that script was tight.
It was great.
8th grade is phenomenal. Yeah.
Oh my god! Nico and I had to pause and leave the room because we just secondhand embarrassment. So I disagree a little bit on that. I will say I think they planned for it to be messy, which speaks to how their vision of the movie might clash with, Steven's vision for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just preference. That's just difference of styles and stuff like that. So yeah, it's valid. But I think all in all, as long as we can agree that it is an important movie for showcasing those aspects of people's mental abilities, mental, struggles, we're all good.
Yeah, it's good. It ain't this good, but it's good.
All right, Zach, what's your number 3?
Well,
I haven't heard of that movie.
Have you ever dreamed?
It's pretty mid.
Of a better you, a more perfect you.
But this is your number 3?
Yeah, my number 3 is The Substance, baby.
Oh, well, finally me and you get to talk about the fucking substance.
All right. So, this movie is absolute batshit insanity, and it's beautiful.
You gonna talk?
Oh, okay. I was gonna hand it off there for you.
Oh, okay. Well, so The Substance, I don't know if we really have to go over the plot specifically, but it tells us it's really telling the story of an actress. In a lot of ways, last year was the year of the woman in cinema. because you had a movie like Baby Girl. You had a movie like Love Lies Bleeding, and then you have a movie that, like The Substance, is telling Demi Moore's story is being channeled through this. She's aging out. She's someone who was kind of known as pretty and all this stuff, and now she's got the opportunity to take the substance and become young again. But it's kind of like Gremlins at the same time. You got to follow the fucking rules, and if you break the rules, there will be repercussions. And this is another body horror movie, and the breaking of the rules and the repercussions are so interesting as far as the social commentary in the movie goes. And you have two characters, one young and one older, playing or two actors playing the same character at different points, pre-substance and post-substance, and it goes back and forth. And the last act of this movie,
holy shit.
It's like, what the fuck am I watching right now? Thank you for channeling the David Cronenberg for me. Thank you so much, because this shit got fucking wild.
Has anyone else seen this, please?
No, I think it's just me and you.
Damn it!
And I'm trying.
We did not get to it.
It's like, I want to talk about some things, but I can't.
We had one chance to watch a movie, and it was between The Substance, which was really long for the night that we had, or Longlegs, which was significantly shorter.
Oh, two very good movies. Two very good movies. But yeah, I probably would have if I was choosing. This movie is gross.
This movie has the best sound design.
It's so good.
The sound design.
Good.
There's a scene in the beginning where someone's eating shrimp, and it's the most fucking disgusting sounding.
Oh
scene
god, it's so gross.
Oh my god,
that's so gross. But yeah, I feel like I want to say stuff, but I just want to take it from you. I don't want to take it from you guys because this movie is so good. Demi Moore won the Golden Globe for her performance.
Do you think it was deserved based off other things you've seen?
So, okay, here's the thing. When you look at the nominees for the Globes in that category, it's a hard category because every single actor in that category deserved to win.
Yeah.
Would I have given it to her? Probably not. But I love that she got it because one, she deserved it, and two, it's about time a movie with some substance got recognized. A whole fucking body horror movie.
This is a Mad Max Fury Road moment to where if it gets nominated for Best Picture, it doesn't have to win. It got nominated for Best Picture, okay?
But if it won, it's like, what? That happened. That happened. And what's really funny is if you look at in the Globes, the Best Actor also was a body horror movie, so that's kind of weird. But this is absolutely, without question, and no one can argue this, Demi Moore's best performance in her career.
Yes.
She has never been better than she was in this movie. And it was funny because you find out she was pretty much retired from acting. And I think you will see her in a lot more stuff moving forward after this because she just did her best fucking work. It's
Do you
so
think
good.
this kind of revived her passion?
I
know it did. If you see her speech from the Globes, she gave the best speech of the night.
Yeah, I was about to say, I've only watched her speech, and you could tell.
So
that fire.
I watched her speech, but I almost wonder if the speech was kind of a setup to try to clinch the Oscar.
Well, I don't know, but I felt it was honest. I thought it was honest. You know, I love the story of her being told she was a popcorn actress because she was. That's all she did was those kind of popcorny movies. You know, she was never probably given the opportunity to do other things because no one thought she could. So I don't know. She's fucking great in the movie. I mean, there's just a scene with her and
20 minutes of dialogue in the whole film.
Yeah, there's not a ton of dialogue in the movie. I mean, there's a scene with her in a lipstick that just fucking rivet you.
Good. It's so good.
Rivets you to the screen when you're watching it, and it's just her.
Well,
and her
I
face.
keep hearing about the Dennis Quaid scene.
Which one?
The one with the shrimp.
Yeah, it's fucking gross. It's really gross.
Gross.
Yeah, it's real gross.
I mean, but like subtext and symbolism and God damn it, I can't go into like.
There were some moments there were some moments in the past few weeks of trying to put my list together that this movie sat at number one.
Yeah.
It just, and I could argue for flipping things around and putting it there, because you want to talk about, you guys are talking about how Inside Out 2 is important. This movie is so important with what it's trying to say. It's talking about, like,
Careful.
it's just interesting because there's so many things where they show the dynamic and what it's like for a man versus what it's like for a woman. And damn it, you fucking get that in so many movies this past year, and it's just the repercussions of the world that we're living in. You know, Baby Girl has that too. Baby Girl has a scene where she has to do all this shit to get ready, where the dude just puts on his clothes and goes, you know, and the expectation is there. And this movie, The Substance, is all about expectations.
Like, I wish I had a camera filming my face while watching this movie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because there must have been 8 minutes of this movie where I was just like this. Like
So-
8 minutes of that movie.
It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, and this movie also was on my list of favorite endings for a movie, because the last moment of this movie is like, holy shit. It's unbelievable.
Ugh. The fact that
So
there's,
good.
I think, like 4 or 5 shots of CG in this whole movie, and that everything else is done practically is just
Incredible.
yeah,
Yeah, so good.
So, Stephen, was that your number 3 too?
No, it was not. It was my number 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Are we to me?
It
Yep.
is a film that, like, please, if you watch this with somebody, just you could hold on to each other and just look at each other's face.
Yeah. It's so good. All right, so my number 3 is going to be quick because no one else has fucking seen it but me. And my number 3, and it's an interesting movie for me to have so high on my list, but it's a 5 out of 5 movie. Again, made me cry like a fucking baby. Is Dee Dee.
Damn it!
And
this one's
I
good.
wanted to see this so fucking bad.
It's a simple little story. It's a coming of age story about a little Asian kid trying to find his way in the world in the 90s. So a lot of people have a lot of nostalgia for it because it's 90s, it's like skateboards, it's all that stuff. But it really focuses on his relationships with his friends versus his relationship with his mother and grandmother. It's a family film. And his sister too. And it resonates so real. Like, it resonates real for me because he's younger than his sister in the movie. But they have a relationship that's so familiar to me. They hated each other. But when shit got real, they still stood up for each other. And that kind of, like, representation in the movie is done so organic that you just feel like it's real. Like, I'm watching a documentary right now. And then, you know, I think there's obviously he has a whole other layer of trying to fit in as a young Asian kid. And that is definitely played up in the movie and important. But I think it's relatable to all of us being in a situation with our peers that are so different than us. And we're trying to find a way to sort of bend ourselves a little bit to fit so that we either can make friends or we just don't stand out. It's beautiful. The final moment of this movie really made me cry in the theater, like, hard. It's like chef's kiss beautiful. It is my favorite final moment of a movie this year. And it's different because a lot of times you look for I mean, I don't even want to say because you should just see it. Beautiful final moment. I'll just say that. I loved it. It's wonderfully acted. The filmmaking is all fine. It's not like mind-blowing. It's fine. Very, like, everybody talks about how I Saw the TV Globes. Ooh, 90s vibes. I think the 90s vibes in this movie are more relatable. If that's what you're looking for, something with like that, those vibes. It's wonderful. I can't wait to buy this movie and watch it over and over again. I loved it so much. I'd put it in there with something like Booksmart. I just think it's great. Really good.
All right, number 2.
All right, number 2. I have already bought this movie digitally, and I hardly ever buy movies digitally. It is Wicked.
Hey, we get to talk about Wicked.
Hey,
We will
well,
talk about that next.
I have
Okay.
a feeling.
All right.
I had a
Movie?
feeling.
Never
Moving on.
mind.
All right, so
right.
Zach's number 2.
Damn it, I'm gonna show my hand now because Steven knows where this is going.
You sure are.
So my number 2 is Civil War.
Also, my number 2.
Hey!
Hey!
We finally synced up. It took all
finally
fucking
synced
night.
up. And we both just showed our hands at the same time.
Well, looks like we're gonna.
Looks like we'll be syncing up again later. True.
Okay.
Are we the only 2 that have seen this one also?
Yes.
Yep.
Damn
What
it,
the
guys!
fuck, you guys? This movie came out in February.
No, it wasn't February.
It was early in the year, though.
Yeah, it was.
Oh my god, this movie's so good.
I am kind of shocked when this movie came out how many people disliked it or thought it was one note, or how it was, not the movie they expected, therefore they didn't like it. But as time goes on, people are finally starting to warm up to this film and, taking their expectations out of like what they expected from it and watching it for what the actual plot's about and not having their politics bias.
Well, and the thing is, people were expecting, and there was some manipulation in the marketing to kind of make you expect it a little bit, that this was going to be a one side versus the other side, kind of those Civil War, all this stuff. I was nervous about the movie. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. But I was also excited to see it because of the filmmaker.
Yeah, because
it's not about that. It's Alex Garland. Yeah, I mean, Ex Machina. Come on. But it's not about that. What's funny is in a way, this is like Star Trek predicting the future kind of thing. Because you want to talk about predicting the fucking future.
Man, there are moments that it's like it came out and you're like, ooh, that's creepy. And it's
not predicting the future of some Civil War. It's predicting the future of what's happening to the press. Because this movie is about the press. It's about the people who are out there ground pounding, trying to get the stories for real, whether it's shooting photos or doing interviews or whatever. It's about them. The Civil War is happening in the background as we learn about them and what they go through. And what's interesting is this movie comes out, and like while the movie's playing in theaters, a 20-something-year-old photojournalist gets killed, on the front lines of in Gaza. So I think it's maybe a career best for Kirsten Dunst. She's so fucking good in this movie. It's beautiful, other than some CGI that's not
noticeable,
the best.
even with its big budget. But I mean, it's kind of everything else is and there's a lot of scenes with a ton of CGI in it that we just didn't notice because it was better blended than others.
Yeah.
But I mean, you want to talk about a sound mix that is assaultingly, like, it shook me. I don't mean that, literally, but there are moments that it's like, just to talk about the sound mix real quick, there are moments that I'm like, you are only ever going to get this moment in the theater. I don't care how good your home theater is. I don't care how loud it is. It is not going to be the same here. Because there are moments where it goes from 100 plus decibels to 0. And the way your ears freak out at that creates its own sound effect in the mix.
And you've seen it in the trailers, but you didn't see the whole thing. But you did see part of it in the trailers. This is a game changer for Jesse Plemons. He's
Holy
fucking
shit.
His
that
character
man shows up to this film, eats it alive, leaves, and is the scene everyone talks about because it is probably the scariest fucking scene.
It's fucking terrifying. It's so scary and so well done. And there's what is his name? I'm trying to think of his name. This actor. I want to look it up real quick. Keep talking while I pull the movie up because I can't think of his name.
But I mean, everything is just hitting on all cylinders for this film. It also hits a little personal for us because there are moments where they are, these photojournalists and whatnot are getting the footage, getting the shots that they want, and they're hyped up about, essentially what is this carnage.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a
Man,
second.
I can really kind of relate to that because, if you're running gun on the camera and you see someone crying and you're filming it, I mean, whatever's happening is a horrible moment.
But
me
you've
behind
got
the
the
camera,
story.
you're just like, I got it.
I've got the story. This is what it's about.
It kind of hits a little bit to where you're like, whoa, I'm
Well,
seeing a mirror here real quick.
exactly. The thing that stood out to me was people talked about that as not being realistic. And
Oh, no.
now obviously Zach and I have never been on the front lines of something, but we've shot some very sad things and knew this is some horrible shit we're shooting, but this is the story. And you get hype. You get excited that you got the story. And they do that in this movie in such a way that is very kind of disturbing how relatable it is. And there's some, I'm trying to find this, like he's not even listed in the top of it. It features Kaylee Spaney, who's great
Are you
in the
talking
movie.
about the main journalist guy?
No, I'm talking about the old guy.
Oh.
He's a character actor. You know him when you see him. I just can't think of his name. But there's stuff that happens with him. Stephen, oh, there he is. Stephen McKinley Henderson. I don't know if you guys would know the name, but if you saw him, you'd know.
Yeah,
he's like one of the.
Yeah, he's really good.
He's so good in this. He's so good in. And there's three things in this movie. It's got all the social commentary, obviously, but there's 3 beats in this movie. 1 fucking terrifying, and 2 that are just so fucking heartbreaking. They're incredible. They're beautiful and really heartbreaking. And at the end of the movie, even though you might know what's going to happen, it doesn't take away from the impact of it. It's so good.
It is set up, and when it happens, I guess a lot of people I read online were like, "Oh, I was just waiting for it to happen." It's like you missed the fucking point.
You missed the point. Yeah. And if you're someone who's not a big fan of Trump, it's in there. It's fucking in there. It's just not center stage because it doesn't need to be. It's not what the movie's about.
Would you say it's best to put your electional emotions aside?
Put your electional emotions aside. Definitely.
Again, if you're expecting a movie that will say this side good, this side bad, you're in the wrong fucking movie. And I hate to break that to you, but you need to readjust your expectations.
I'm going to somewhat
journalists.
I'm going to somewhat disagree with that because while this movie doesn't focus on this side good, this side bad.
No, you want the film to definitively say that out loud and clear as day. It's not going to happen.
No, but it's there. It's in the background. It's there.
You can pick it up, but it's not
it's there
to say, attention audience.
This movie's about journalism, and it's about telling true stories and telling the right stories and being honest, which is so weird with like what Bezos is fucking doing with the Washington Washington Post or whatever.
WAPO. It's like
it's just so timely, and it's going to be a movie that gets to be more and more important moving forward because the way we get our news is about to really change.
I do feel with age, this movie's only going to go up.
It's like a fucking fine wine, baby. Like a fine wine. All right, moving on. I guess we were ready. Nathan's number 2.
I guess.
My number 2 is Deadpool Wolverine.
I'm gonna go pee.
Oh, wow.
Walk off. It's amazing. I freaking loved from the opening sequence of Bye 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 to the cameos to all of the above. We got every facet of Wolverine. The jokes just hit every single mark. Armando and I went to the theater. We went back and bought it. We've watched it like 4 or 5 times now. It's just it
was fun. Yes. I am surprised it is that high.
No,
but it is definitely good.
You shouldn't be that surprised as that's high. It's me, bitch.
That's true. And just especially as we get into the top 5 to top 3, you definitely see Nathan and Mike's criteria versus Steven and Zach's criteria.
Yeah, I'm falling asleep at Steven and Zach.
Fuck you. You watch Civil War, you're gonna cry and you're gonna love it.
Okay.
Deadpool Wolverine is one that, yeah, if I want to chuckle and I have to choose for movies this year, yeah, I'm gonna put on Deadpool Wolverine.
Yeah.
Deadpool Wolverine is funny. There's good
Listen,
jokes. There's a ton of good jokes in Deadpool Wolverine, but there's no script.
The chemistry between Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman.
And Hugh Jackman's abs.
Hugh Jackman's Ryan Reynolds' ass. I'm like, damn, I want to bounce a quarter off that shit. Ugh.
This is your black hat.
I literally am the guy sitting at the desk just waiting for Ryan Reynolds to follow me like this.
Black hat.
Black hat. So what I do think is pretty funny about this movie is everybody had all these visions of, bringing current Marvel characters in, bringing Tony Stark in, all this stuff. And what they did was...
This person's going to be this person's going to be this person. And I'm like...
And instead, what they did is they brought in all the Fox characters, which I think was hilarious. And it was even fucking Elektra shows up, which is hilarious.
Frickin' Blade.
And I'm sorry for all the people who I still maintain Channing Tatum as Gambit was everything I needed in a Gambit.
Yep.
Full stop. For the people who are like, oh, Channing Tatum is Gambit, especially when he was trying to get his own Gambit movie off the ground, that is definitely a fan. Like, he is a fan of Gambit. A lot of times when people make the superhero movies, especially in like the early 90s odds when Elektra and Blade and all that was coming out, there was definitely that disconnect of it's a popular character, so we'll make money versus here's a fan who's making it. They know what to put in there. Channing Tatum as Gambit.
I mean,
fund it right now. Here is my money. I want a full 2-hour movie of Channing Tatum as Gambit.
And well, okay, so if we're going to that, like I don't really have an investment. Like I thought he was fine. I thought the thing about Channing Tatum is I think for a long time people didn't take him seriously as a funny guy.
Yeah.
And he's funny. He's good at being funny.
But
21
for
Jump
me,
Street
has entered the chat in 2000.
Well, no, I mean outside of that, he's been like, the pretty boy or whatever. So I guess he just didn't get taken in that direction, but he is fun in the role. But for me, give me Old Man Blade, because I really enjoyed seeing Wesley Snipes as Blade again. Yeah. I know he's like 60 years old and can't do the martial arts like he used to, but damn, he still had the vibes.
Well, listen, I walked away from that film, and almost every day I'm always using a Coke reference, like, are you White Girl Interrupted? Or just random freaking jokes from that movie I think about often.
Yeah.
What is it, the Madonna song, Like a Little Prayer? Or whatever.
Like a prayer.
Yeah.
On my knees.
Yes. That is the best use of that song.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. Do you notice that all we talk about when we talk about this movie are, one, the cameos, or two, the jokes.
Yep.
No one's talking about the story.
Yep.
And again, I think that's where me and Nathan's criteria diverges from you and Zach's, because that's what we want. That's
the script sucks.
I told you part of my criteria was high entertainment.
Yeah.
Zach, you can't even speak. You haven't watched the whole movie, sir.
I did watch the whole movie. I chuckled once. And then the whole time, I watched the whole movie.
Yeah, but you don't do well with humor, though, also.
I don't, admittedly. But the whole time I'm going, wow, this plot really needs work.
Well, the villain sucks.
Yes.
No one cares.
Another fucking Deadpool movie where the villain sucks. Another fucking Marvel movie where the villain sucks. I am not giving passes anymore. This is unacceptable work. I don't care if it was during the writer's strike. I don't care if it was during the actor's strike or whatever that was going on. It's bad. It's shocking to me that this made like $1 billion.
It made $1 billion because people have wanted
nostalgia.
To see.
It's a fucking another movie about like, please don't you remember nostalgia? Don't you feel good about those shitty fucking movies that came out a decade ago or 2 decades ago? Don't you feel bad about those? No, I don't. They were shit. They were bad.
They were not all shit. X-Men 2 is still one of the best superhero movies ever made.
Okay, we have one. How about Daredevil, Elektra, fucking Blade 3? How
Blade 1, still one of the best superhero movies ever.
Blade 3 was not a shit movie, Zach.
Yeah, it kind of was.
was. Fantastic Four? How about Fantastic Four 2? Fuck it.
You
Fan
are
Four
the Fantastic
was
Four.
those 3 good films? No.
I
It's like these
highly
all
enjoyed
films
it.
were bad. And I'm
All of those
fucking
films
tired
you're
of these
naming were
rose-tinted
highly
glasses.
entertaining, Zach.
I'm so tired of these
No.
rose-tinted glasses on the fucking nostalgia train. I'm so sick
They
and
were
tired of it.
highly entertaining, Zach.
They were
Yeah,
wasting
I
my
mean,
fucking money.
I am right in between on this. I don't go as hard as Zach does, but I also
I
don't
don't
go as hard
expect
as you guys do. I'm right in
Well,
the
let's
middle.
let's move on to the next one.
I'm not saying your opinion's bad. I'm saying I fucking hated the movie.
All right, so we are now at our number ones. All
So I
right.
feel like you two have the same number one, and Zach
Nope.
and I have the
No.
same number one.
No.
So let's just no. Oh no.
My
Yeah,
number
my
one is Tina's
number two
two.
was his number one.
Oh, okay. So all right. So we're starting.
Number one.
3 movies if you have
Yep.
to be revealed.
My number one is Wild Robot. This movie
Okay.
I need to see
had
this.
me crying for almost the entire movie. It is
I need to see this.
beautifully animated. Like
It
gorgeous.
is DreamWorks Animation's best movie. Period.
Yeah.
Full stop. Better than any of the Shrek movies. Better than all that stuff.
Honestly, okay, you guys know how much I love How to Train Your Dragon. If given the choice between saving Wild Robot or How to Train Your Dragon Masters in like a fire end of the world, Wild Robot, 100%. This movie is, one, just gorgeous. 2, well written. The story is just
This
it hits hard.
It does. The story actually redefines kind of what it's like or what it's meant, what it means to be a parent
Yes.
in that way. And it also, what I loved about it is something that I've always said is family has nothing to do with blood.
Yes.
And that is big
100%.
time in this movie. It runs through the veins of this movie that you don't have to be blood and you don't have to be the same species. You don't have to be the same thing. You can be a robot and a bird and be family.
And going against nature to be the nurture. It's, I mean, in real life, a fox is going to eat a duck.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, the fox is helping the duck, is helping to take care and grow, and they get those emotional attachments. And
well, and the whole reason that happens is because something new has been introduced into their ecosystem, which is the robot.
And then you also have that added aspect of fear of the unknown, how people react to it. You have the hostility of, it's the monster, beat it up, destroy it, versus you're not afraid of me. You're one of the few people who aren't afraid of me. That means I can connect with you. And it's, and then having that aspect come back, and the robot has the choice of,
don't spoil.
Yeah.
Don't
Of doing the good
Don't
versus,
spoil, I want to see it.
Yeah. But it's so good, and it's just
and the other thing is,
Nico and I were bawling our eyes out for a
oh yeah, I cried during this movie for sure.
Yeah.
And
it's not like
one cool aspect of this movie is it could go one very clear way at its end, and it doesn't go that way. It gives you something a little bit more meaty to think about and to connect to, and it got points for me for that
as well.
Oh, I love
it doesn't have your neat, tie it in a bow, perfect fairy tale ending. It's very organic.
It's more interesting. And on top of that, like you said, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's just beautiful to look at. It was beautiful to see it in the theater. You guys fucked up.
We saw it in the theater.
No, I'm talking about these two.
Oh,
I told Zach. I came out of that movie and I told Zach. I'm like,
that was
bitch.
our 1 or 2 date nights where we actually got to see a movie together in the theater.
And I don't want to hear it because I'm like, bitch, you got to go see this movie. I tried.
Yeah, you told me the same thing, but
I tried and it was gone, and I was like, "You bitch!" You're like,
no,
I didn't try and it was gone. I tried. I was like, "All right, I can finally go see the Wild Robot because I have free time." And then they're like, "All right, 11:45 a.m. What's that? You have work? Well, get fucked, asshole." It's like,
because you waited too long.
You waited
too long. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, and that movie had such a funny and interesting theatrical run because it came out. And I don't feel like DreamWorks put enough into the marketing for it.
No,
it came out.
I don't know anything about it. All I know is there's a robot and a duck.
And it had a mediocre start in the theater. And then Terrifier 3 came out. And it got this weird boost of young people fucking buying tickets to the movie to slip in and go over and sneak into Terrifier, which I think is hilarious. You guys got to see it.
Terrifier wasn't unrated, so they should just be able to walk in.
No, it was unrated, but they still weren't selling to kids. Still weren't selling. Yeah,
I mean, thank God for that, because
if a movie is not rated, you don't get to buy the ticket. Period.
All right, Zach, what's your number one?
All right,
here we go.
Yeah. Okay. So just full disclosure.
Yeah.
I just would like to say the way we saw this did not affect our ranking of this, and also when this movie ended, I turned to Steven and we both had like a little tear in our eye with our hand over our mouth. Like we just sat in stunned silence. We were like,
is this both your all's number one?
Yeah, they both have the same number one.
Yeah. Sean Baker fucking swinging a grand slam here with Honora.
The movie is so good.
Holy fuck, this movie is so good.
I vacillate between a 4.5 and a 5 out of 5 on this one. I kind of go back and forth on it.
There's like one scene that just goes on a little too much, but I don't care because the rest of the film is just so good.
Mikey Madison will be nominated for an Oscar. Yeah, I don't know if she's going to win it. She should probably win. So yeah.
Like, dude, the Oscars are going to fucking hurt this year because they're just
going to hurt.
But like, it's really just going to be painful.
So this movie is about Mikey Madison's character, who is an exotic dancer and sometimes sex worker. She ends up meeting a young Russian guy, and they end up getting connected because she actually speaks Russian. And he hires her for a week, basically, because he's wealthy, for pleasures. And what I'm going to say is nothing that's not in the trailer. And through that time, they decide to get married because he can stay in the country. And that doesn't work out exactly how they thought it was going to work out. Now, I've heard Sean Baker say, and I've heard other people say too, that this is a weird, twisted version of Cinderella, and I see it.
Yep.
I do see it 100%. The movie
Not gonna lie. It 100% sounds like a smut book that I 1,000% would read.
I mean, but it's not about the sex. I mean,
it's not really
dude,
about
it has some of the best hard cuts to sex I've seen, to where they're in the middle of a conversation, just cut to sex,
cut to Pound Town,
and then we're cutting back. You know, it's just,
it's so funny though, because I'm going to own this. I'm going to own this right now. Is this movie was getting such a big wide push from Neon that I felt like, okay, well, this is Sean Baker dialing it back a little bit. And Zach's like, no, he won't.
God, we're standing in line and we're like, do you think he's going to tone it back because he's going to kind of go in mainstream Red Rocket?
And I'm like, yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. And we get in there, and the opening credits,
the opening fucking shot,
nothing but titties everywhere, asses everywhere,
ass and titties all over the screen.
And Zach's like, basically just shaking his head at me like,
I started laughing, and I felt like an asshole because I'm like, haha, he's laughing at the
because no one knew what he was laughing about. He's laughing at me because I was fucking wrong.
I was just laughing so hard. I was like, we were very wrong here. Like, the movie hadn't been rated. It was a very, very.
We saw this movie in an advanced screening and not a preview screening. This was a test screening, which was really cool.
A test screening.
Yeah, and which sucked. Because Zach and I gave it 5 out of 5 down the line, so we didn't get to stay. They only kept people that had problems with the movie.
Dude, someone complained in our audience about like, well, I don't like the way the violence was shown against the lady. I'm like, what fucking violence?
Well, okay, so that's not true. There's violence in the movie against her. But what's interesting though is she has agency though. It's not like there's violence against her with no agency. She fucking beats the shit out of people.
Yeah, it's not
she
like,
does not
it's
take
not like
shit.
Some guy came into a scene and then beat her, to death's door. Like, it's irreversible.
And it's not violence like that. It's not like I spit on your grave violence or anything like that. But there's
it's like, oh my god, she's freaking out. We need to tie her up.
But don't get too spoilery. Don't get spoilery.
Oh no, the trailer. Fucking.
But anyway, the thing that I think is so wild about this movie.
I'm not.
Like. Witch's sister gets crushed by a house.
Damn. Yeah. Like tying up versus like entire plot point. Sure. Please tell me how these are equal.
The movie can actually does these amazing transitions from comedy and it's not like slapstick comedy, but it's definitely comedic storytelling, to hardcore drama, and then back. And it's like it's to the point where you don't know what's next. You don't know what's next. Um, her character, or Mikey Madison, I don't know the other guy's name. There's one other character in there that's almost kind of in the background until he's not, and he's incredible also. The movie is yes.
His name's fucking hell. Yura Borisov.
Mm-hmm.
He's great.
And the movie, and this is Sean Baker, so it's not a surprise. It's beautiful, but I think it's his most beautiful movie. It's the
It's
best.
absolutely his most cinematic. Like, he's finally out of like 16 millimeter, which, I mean, I like Sean Baker on 16 millimeter. But
I do too.
When he goes to 35, it's like, damn, it's beautiful.
There's moments in this where you're supposed to kind of know where Mikey Madison's mind is and where her emotions are, but they don't really have dialogue. But you know from the visual. You know from the lens choice, because all of a sudden it looks like glamour shots. It's very beautiful, bloomy lights and stuff, and it's like, oh, okay, got it. This movie it's incredible. I loved it. I loved it so much.
Yeah,
definitely a number one for the year.
Yeah.
All right,
sitting on this one for 7 months, going, man, I don't know if anything else can top it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see if something can defy gravity and move to number one for Nathan.
Yeah,
Number
let's
one,
go.
Wicked. I love musicals, but when I tell you, I went and saw Wicked in theaters twice. I bought the digital for $30.
Yep.
I've watched it twice already. I've watched all the special features, the commentary, the everything about this movie, the emotional portrayal from Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba, the tears coming down her face in vulnerable moments like in the Ozdust Ballroom. It's just beautiful. I've seen the stage play, and this transcends the stage play in such a good way because you capture the essence of the story, but you expand on it in a sense that makes it so cinematic. Well, it's cinematic. It's like
and what happens is there's an aspect that Zach complains about. He thinks it takes too long to get to a certain spot. They added that stuff in there, but I think it's important because it develops the characters more. It gives you more depth.
Yeah.
It developed the characters more. It gives you more depth. And there was stuff that they didn't even show, that didn't even make the film, that I was like, wow, that had to be really hard to like put on the cutting or the chopping block. And like you sit there and it threw me back into the feeling of the first time I saw Wizard of Oz. Because the first time I saw Wizard of Oz, like as a kid, I was enamored. Like you just get lost in this like fantastical world and story, and you get this feeling again watching Wicked.
And taking it a step further, it's not just the audience who has these emotions about Wicked. This is Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande. When they were told they got the parts, both of them broke down sobbing. Like, this is 100% their dream roles. They've said time and again, you know, if they could only do one role, it would have been this one. And the amount of skill from both of them. Ariana Grande doing a lot of the stunt work with, you know, the song Popular, jumping around the ceiling thing. Like, she almost hit the choreographer, or like one of the people who's in charge of like helping to go through like
in the face.
Yeah, she almost kicked him in the face because she was just so excited to do the swing, and she nailed it perfectly. Cynthia Erivo, she was singing the entire time she was flying around. She refused to not sing.
They both refused not to sing. In the way that John Chu also chose to make the subtle changes in the movie to add pause in songs that are so well beloved. Like, yeah, you have these songs that we've known from the stage soundtrack, but now they're their own. They're like their standalone, and you can separate both and appreciate both just as much.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's the practicality of some of the sets, like that train, like the bullet train to the Emerald City, beautiful. And it's built. And I think we're starting to see a lot more sets that are having, or the people who are adamant about having these sets built to where it's not just all CGI and green screen. And I'm here for it because that was gorgeous.
So someone whose exposure to musicals is very limited, because I have not loved many of them, but I do love some. There's some that I really like. I went into this movie with all the hype, because I wanted to be in the conversation. And I really liked this movie. I really connected with Elphaba. The scene that you're talking about where she's at the party with the hat on and that kind of thing was incredible. I thought the songs were incredible. I get the defying gravity thing now because it's incredible. That ending,
God, the ending is so fucking good.
It's so good. And
also,
the thing is,
yeah.
we were talking about Dune 2 a few minutes ago. It ends technically with a cliffhanger, but the arc is complete.
And Nathan just leaves.
Damn.
I don't know where he might come back, so keep an eye on
I will say Nico's reaction. Nico doesn't really care one way or the other for musicals. I've taken him to see a couple of Broadway shows, but he's not like me and Nathan. We're really big. We grew up with musicals. He's kind of more in Steven's camp of he'll watch it, but he's not really that big of a fan. As soon as it ended, as soon as to be continued, he turned to me. He goes, "I get it now."
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, just on my 2 cents, it's like, look, I can only go based on I've seen part one. I don't know the full story. I don't know how scenes play in later to the second half, so I can only judge it based on that. So I might get crucified here. It's in my top 10, goddammit. Like, I really liked it, but I can only judge it based on the movie itself without any knowledge of anything else outside of Wizard of Oz. So, I do feel maybe, next year when I revisit this and part 2 comes out, I'll be like, God damn it, I was stupid.
I mean,
yeah,
you don't even need to
Well,
know
hang on. Let him actually tell you what he's just taking forever to lead up to it because he's.
But I mean, that's just how I feel in the moment. That's where I am, and I think it is a great film. I just feel like maybe could have sped up a little bit.
I will say I'm excited to see you revisiting this when part 2 comes out.
I'm hype as fuck to revisit it.
Yeah, so here's what's interesting.
You will change some of your tunes on some of that pretty.
I had like a pretty incredible experience because a few weeks after seeing the movie, while I was in California, I was able to see the stage play. So I know how it ends. I know where it goes. I will argue that probably part 2 will be my favorite part.
Mm-hmm.
Which is incredible because part 1 is so fucking good.
Yeah.
Part 1 is good, but I think once part 2 comes out, I think it will be my preferred of the two, having seen stage play.
I'm thinking Cynthia and Ariana probably will not win the awards this go round. I think they will get them for part 2.
Part 2 is definitely when they're going to have to rely a lot more on their acting chops for sure. Because that's where a lot of the meat of the drama comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I find fascinating about Wicked is you have, in my opinion, you have like 2 different categories for Broadway hits. You have the long-standing, you have Cats, you have Phantom. You have the ones that...
Chicago.
Yes, the ones that pretty much made Broadway. Then you have the fads. You have Six, you have Hamilton, you have the ones that come out and people are like, oh my God, this is so catchy, this is so poppy, and it's now, and it's hip, and it's cool. Wicked came out in the early aughts, and it had really good reviews, but unless you actually went to Broadway and saw it, or happened to catch it while it was in town, most people couldn't give 2 shits about Wicked. Oh, it's Wizard of Oz.
And a lot of people, unless you were a musical theater kid, you really didn't
know. Yeah. So the fact that this has shone a light on the possibility of the stories that you get on Broadway.
Okay.
Like, you say you're not a big musical theater fan.
I gotta be a counterpoint to this just a little bit,
Yeah, I'm
because
like,
here's the thing. Yeah, you're selling it like it's some little play that no one knows about.
it's one of
This
the
is a
highest
play.
grossing Broadway
Wait. It's one of the highest grossing plays of all time. It is a play that has been universally sold out for 20 plus years. It's got a huge fan base. This thing
I'm
is
saying it doesn't have a
epic.
huge fan
We're
base.
not saying.
I'm
She's not
saying
saying it was
if
a
you
little.
weren't exposed to it in the ways that, with this movie, yes,
Yeah.
you heard of Wicked. You know generally what it's about. It's the retelling. Would you have gone to see Wicked, the stage play, had you not seen this movie?
Yes, I've tried several
Yeah.
times. It always sells out.
But
And the fact that it's always sold out makes it more enticing. The whole FOMO.
Let me tell you this, though. A lot of people do not know the stage play, but what they do recognize are the names of Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth. And then you see in cultural events like the show Glee, where they use certain songs from Wicked, which made Wicked songs popular. So there was exposure, but
And
a lot
Yeah.
of people don't know the
Let me
play.
ask
And also, don't undersell the fact that there's 2 books.
Yeah, let me ask this as well. Would you be more willing to see just a random Broadway play that maybe isn't as popular, maybe isn't as, sold out everywhere, because you're like, oh, hey, Wicked is really good. Just not being the film person you are, just being like, as not anti-musical, but not as big of a fan as musical, but you enjoy Wicked.
So I'm biased in that because I used to be in stage plays. So I'd say
that's why I'm not asking you.
I don't really. What are you asking exactly?
So, okay, I've noticed, because I grew up with people who loved musicals, but I also had friends who just didn't really care for them, didn't stand them, could not. If it's a musical, they're out. But some of them have liked Wicked so much that they've asked my opinion on, hey, I really like Wicked, and I want to see more like that. If you have recommendations, it's made it to where people who might not have been on the musical train before, maybe not have been their cup of tea, that's fine, 100% fine. They're willing to give more musicals.
I think this is a very long way to ask. Does liking Wicked make you want to watch other musicals?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and let me say
more
this.
open to it.
Well, and the answer, I think, for most people, me included, is yes. Now, if you want to get into that aspect of it, the problem a lot of times is the cost of entry is really high. Like those Wicked tickets, when I went and saw it, they were $400.
Yeah, Hamilton tickets were goddamn expensive.
So the idea of going because I heard it's good, that's a very specific economic group that can do stuff like that.
Well, and there's something different about the Wicked movie compared to other musicals that were turned into movies. Wicked, they chose to stay true to the production. They added a little bit here and there, but they chose not to cut things that other musical movies decided to cut out of the play, which I think hurt some of the storylines. Like, I'm not talking like Chicago, I'm talking like Hairspray or like Rent, that just did not translate well into cinema.
Yeah.
Even Phantom to a large extent.
Well, okay, so because we're running really long, let's just. I do want
always a 3-hour podcast.
I do want to jump into and talk about some of the reasons it's so low on my list. Like it's at 5, and it's technical. So for every great technical thing in this movie, there's something that's not as good as it could be. I don't care how many reasons John Chu comes up with. Oh, it's the image is washed out because it's a style. It's not a fucking style choice. That image is washed out and the backgrounds are blown out because they didn't do a good job of blending green screen CGI with practical sets. Anytime there's a window in this movie, it's blown out. You can't see anything. There are some like sizing issues with when she's out in those with the flowers. Some things don't look exactly the right ratio to me. Those things really kind of bugged me. But then you have something like that badass wheel that they were dancing in
that
like
was
the
such
library.
A cool fucking prop, man.
It was so good. It was so good. but I can't get away from the look of the movie in those sequences where it's just so washed out looking, and
The whole movie looks washed. And I'm like,
and things are
like,
obviously
contrast?
super vibrant. There's super vibrant, beautiful art here that is just covered in gauze. And I'm like, this has to be that blending of CGI and practical, because they built so much stuff. And then they're just sort of dropping it in the windows or outside the doors or whatever. And I hate it. I hate it.
I mean, I'd almost be curious to see like somebody's fan edit to where it's like, and we're going to boost the contrast a little bit. Look, we got rid of that gray look of film.
Yeah.
I want to know if Jeff Goldblum kept the giant plastered face and turned it into like a water feature or something. Because
I love the fact that that's a real puppet.
Oh no, I'm talking about the stone when she goes through that little grotto and you see the stone carving.
Oh, before she goes running through the
field. Yeah.
I actually freaked out because they didn't know, some of the cast didn't know that was there. So it actually freaked out like Jonathan Bailey and Cynthia Erivo the first time they saw it. They were like, oh Jesus. Like I would totally try and steal that. 100%.
I loved it. It's still a 4 out of 5 for me, and seeing the musical maybe even makes it a 4.5 out of 5. Can't wait to see the second part.
But Zach, I challenge you to watch Wizard of Oz and then revisit Wicked.
I mean, I'm totally fine with doing a triple feature of like part 1 Wizard of Oz and part 2, or should I do? Y'all know the story.
Watch Wizard of Oz.
The audience. I want a question for the audience, real quick.
I don't know if there's anybody left in here.
I don't think there is, but just people who are listening, you can submit answers later on. I don't give a shit. If I told you the Wicked Witch of the West had a sister, who would that be in Wicked? And what happens to her in Wizard of Oz? Good night.
She has a dicks all over her wheelchair wheel. I have been called out like, no, obviously that's not it. But every time I fucking look at it, all I see are ticks on the wheelchair.
All right, so listen.
What does it say about me?
My earbuds are giving me a battery low warning, so listen.
Charge them. Damn, sir.
They were charged. That's the thing.
Yeah,
it always goes 3
I've
hours.
used all my international data.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So that was our top 10s. I hope you guys are listening to this later. Thank you to everybody who was in the chat for the majority of it. I know it was epic, so people didn't last. But feel free to let us know what your top 10s are. We'll be happy to talk about those. I think it's always interesting because we do link up in some ways, and then we bring something new to the table every year. So this is really cool.
12 movies.
Let's see. Real quick, I'll just tell you. So the ones that didn't make the list for me that are in the top 20 is Perfect Days, Kinds of Kindness, Challengers, which is at the top, like 18. Maxine, Long Legs, The Wild Robot, Casa Bonita Mi Amor, Dune 2, and Thelma. Thelma killed me to not have it in there. And then sometimes I think about dying.
I was kind of shocked Thelma was not on your list because you fucking love that movie.
It literally got pushed out day before yesterday. Oof. It was right there. Yep. All right. So Tina, where do we find you on the internet?
You can find me on most major social media, Cheddar Popper, CheddarPoppr. One of my New Year's resolutions is to post more on TikTok with the books.
Nice. Like to hear that. Nathan?
And he's muted.
And he's muted.
Realize he's muted.
You're muted, baby.
There you go.
No one heard you.
There we go.
There you are.
I think I'm about to lose drop. All right. Nate_R_70.
All right. And Zachy Boy?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm Master of the Matrix 91. You can also find me on Steam and Discord as a dangerous mute lunatic. And of course, you can find me on Letterboxd, Master Z91.
I'm easy. OTS Movies on TikTok, YouTube, and Letterboxd. I'm doing a project this year. I'm not pushing 150. I'm not going to kill myself again. I'm doing 50 films by female filmmakers this year. That is my film.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's the focus. But thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.